Task: take a stroll through the purple luo flower sea with Yunzai. Reward: nascent soul skill, greenwood transformation skill, 10 drops of centennial spirit marrow. Except yes, no. He hadn't expected it to be a nascent soul skill. Moreover, there were a full 10 drops of centennial spirit marrow. This was much more valuable than the rewards for sparring with Yunzai. Lu Yi blissfully accepted the task. Lu Yi turned his head to look at Liu Ningxuang by his side and smiled. "Junior sister, would you like to join us?" Liu Ningxuang thought for a moment, then nodded slightly. I've heard of the purple luo flower sea of the 10,000 flowers sect being one of Qingzhu's wonders. It's rare to come here, so naturally I have to see it. Thus, the four of them headed to the purple luo flower sea under Yunzai's lead. The purple luo flower sea was situated deep within the valley of the 10,000 flowers sect. Purple luo flowers bloomed throughout the valley, and even the distant mountains were covered in a continuous purple shimmer, extremely beautiful. Many female cultivators from the 10,000 flowers sect were admiring the flowers, sitting in pairs or groups, discussing the arts in an exceptionally pleasant environment. Upon seeing Yunzai, quite a few female cultivators looked over, and upon noticing Lu Yi by her side, expressions of surprise appeared on their faces. They whispered among themselves, and then some recognized him, their eyes sparkling as they looked at Lu Yi. Yunzai ignored all this, simply smiling as she introduced the origins of the purple luo flower sea to Lu Yi. It was said that the founder of the 10,000 flowers sect lost her beloved in an accident, and with a heart shattered beyond repair, she no longer desired to pursue cultivation. She established the 10,000 flowers sect here to spend the rest of her days. Since her beloved's favorite were purple luo flowers, she personally planted a field of them and diligently tended to them every year. After thousands of years, it resulted in a vast sea of flowers. Before the sect founder's passing, she instructed the sect leader to continue caring for this sea of flowers, which has been maintained to this day. With her hands clasped behind her back, Yunzai walked through the flower sea, her light voice ringing out. The founder and her beloved are buried deep within this sea of flowers. In life, they couldn't spend their days together, so in death, the founder wished for their graves to be side by side. Donggong Mingyue was next to them, her eyes red with tears, sobbing continuously. Although you're not a good person, the love story of your 10,000 flowers sect's founder is really touching. Liu Ningxuang's gaze swept over the flower sea, also sighing softly. The founder of the 10,000 flowers sect was indeed a sentimental person. Lu Yi too was moved. In his previous life, perhaps because the times had changed, or in fact, simply because relationships were often taken less seriously, many thrived on fleeting connections, with social apps being popular and the cost of making friends very low. One-night stands were all too common. Lu Yi had a roommate in college who could bring 5 different girls home in a single week, and then take 2 days to rest. Lu Yi was envious at first, but after talking to that roommate he confided that he felt numb. He could easily make a girl feel attracted to him, even to the point of sleeping with him that very day, but his heart did not flutter, not even the slightest bit of emotion was present. It was as if it was a routine chore, forever chasing the thrill of freshness and excitement, like an animal devoid of feelings. After each night's passion faded, he felt particularly empty, even hating himself. "In this lifetime, I probably will never know what love is. My heart is dead," he said. When Lu Yi first heard his roommate's words, he thought he was just showing off. But now, upon hearing the story of the 10,000 flowers sect's founder, Lu Yi thought back to his roommate's words and felt something stir within him. It was hard to say which was better or worse, but the founder of the 10,000 flowers sect's deep feelings shocked Lu Yi more. Thinking of a verse from his past life, he chuckled softly and sighed. "I ask the world, what is love? Solely to teach life and death to promise each other." Upon hearing this, Donggong Mingyue, Liu Ningxuang and Yunzai all paused, looking at Lu Yi with surprise, their eyes conveying various emotions. Lu Yi noticed the atmosphere had turned somewhat awkward, and turning his head to see, he found all 3 of them staring intently at him. Lu Yi, puzzled, asked, "What's wrong?" The 3 of them came back to their senses. Donggong Mingyue's cheeks flushed slightly as she averted her gaze. "I didn't expect brother to have such literary grace." Liu Ningxuang smiled lightly. "I haven't seen you with a Taoist couple, junior brother. How can you recite such verses?" Yunzai looked at Lu Yi curiously. "Taoist Yunzai, do you also have such a Taoist companion as the founder?" Lu Yi was utterly bemused. No one had a companion, he'd like to have one indeed. Seeing their reactions, he felt an odd feeling in his heart. Speaking of which, this world and his last life were different. After all, many of the poems and verses in this world did not exist. If he'd been born in the mortal world, he might have been a copycat poet with a flair for the dramatic, right? Unfortunately, he was born in the cultivation world and was destined to become an immortal. That's a different story altogether. Lu Yi laughed lightly. It was just a spontaneous reaction to the story told by Taoist Yunzai. As for literary grace, that's probably innate, right? My talents, both senior sister and junior sister should know, are strong in every aspect. He was thick-skinned indeed, copying without a shred of guilt. The four of them strolled until evening and then returned to rest. After returning to his room, Lu Yi then absorbed his reward. To Lu Yi's surprise, greenwood transformation skill turned out to be a very rare healing technique. It used wood element spiritual energy to speed up the recovery of one's injuries. If one possessed the natural realm or had a body similar to Yunzai's 10,000 flowers spirit body, the effect was even better. Embedded within this skill was a secret technique that allowed one to absorb the life essence from natural flowers, plants, and trees to heal injuries. However, this secret technique consumed a lot, so cultivators generally wouldn't use it lightly. Chapter 171. 103 Breakthrough Golden Core 600 Monthly Ticket plus Update 2. Can only be said that the nascent soul realm arts are indeed quite extraordinary. Early the next day, the cultivators from the cold winter valley arrived, including Han Yu. Seeing Han Yu filled Lu Yi with even more joy, as he would be able to undertake tasks and receive rewards now. Therefore, in the following days, Lu Yi often invited Yunzai and Han Yu to spar. Apart from them, Donggong Mingyue naturally had to be challenged as well, along with Jiang Fan and Tai Man. As for Bai Yulong, at first he sparred a few times, but later he became infatuated with the beauty of the female cultivators from the 10,000 Flowers sect, spending his days gallivanting about. And together with a few other fellow disciples, he swore he would find a Taoist companion from the 10,000 Flowers sect. Lu Yi simply stopped bothering himself with this guy. Besides them, the exchange among the three sects aimed at the communication between the younger disciples and Lu Yi also sparred with other young talents from the cold winter valley and the 10,000 Flowers sect, reaping generous rewards. As for the leading supreme elders and the nascent soul elders, after the first day, they would be away dealing with some matters every day, often out of sight. It was later that Lu Yi found out that the original intention of the exchange meeting among the three sects was just for the communication between the young cultivators. However, the situation changed due to the emergence of Elder Ming, a cave void sword cultivator from the White Cloud sect. The three sects began to discuss the possibility of launching an attack on either the Blood Spirit sect or the Heavenly Snake sect. The great battles among the five sects in the past few years have deepened the enmity between the Blood Spirit sect and Heavenly Snake sect towards the three sects. If there was a chance, all three sects hoped to strike down the Blood Spirit sect and the Heavenly Snake sect in one fell swoop, not giving them a chance to turn the tables. During this period, they discussed these matters every day. After knowing this, Lu Yi didn't care at all, as defeating them would of course be best, and if not, he could simply wait until his strength was greater and then break the sect arrays of the two sects to see what they could do. The exchange among the three sects lasted for more than a month. As Yunzai and Han Yu improved in cultivation, and the rewards increased, Lu Yi was able to obtain more than 60 drops of Centennial Spirit Marrow every day, amounting to over 2,000 drops in total. This was more than double the amount he had previously given to Elder Ming. At the end of the exchange among the three sects, Lu Yi was fully satisfied. Everyone returned calmly to the White Cloud sect, and Lu Yi, Liu Ningxuang, and Donggong Mingyue returned to Ling Luo Peak, each heading to their respective cave mansions. After the exchange among the three sects, Lu Yi guessed that the three sects might take action against the Heavenly Snake sect and Blood Spirit sect, but for now, it was none of his concern, so he focused on his cultivation. Time continued to pass, and 1.5 years later, after applying his moments of sudden enlightenment to the Immortal Sword Scripture repeatedly, Lu Yi's Immortal Sword Scripture finally reached the extreme level of the Foundation Establishment chapter. With this level achieved, the Tao sound chanting in Lu Yi's mind gave him a glimpse into the immortal realm of the Immortal Sword Seed. The more insight he gained, the more Lu Yi realized how profound and mystic the immortal realm was. It was an enormously powerful realm, embodying the grandeur that even if heaven and earth perished, he would remain unyielded. Lu Yi had only grasped a trace of it, and engraved the immortal Tao pattern from his realization into his flesh, feeling an enhancement in his body. Considering that Lu Yi's own heavenly thunder true dragon technique was already an exceedingly powerful body refining technique. And yet even after engraving the immortal Tao pattern, his body could still improve. One could only imagine how formidable this trace of immortal mystery was. Even more so, Lu Yi found that, should he be injured, he could recover quickly, all thanks to the immense role played by the immortal Tao pattern. Lu Yi also began to attempt engraving the immortal Tao pattern into his sword intent, aiming to condense an even more powerful immortal sword intent, which would likely become even mightier. Unfortunately, merging two conceptions was an extremely difficult task. Lu Yi tried every day but to no avail. He wasn't in a hurry. After all, there was plenty of time to slowly experiment. Having reached the limit realm of the Immortal Sword Scripture Foundation building chapter, Lu Yi's cultivation speed increased once more. Just 3 months later, Lu Yi reached the limit of the 13-layer of foundation establishment. At this moment, Lu Yi once again encountered the existence of a bottleneck. Only a bottleneck on the path to the Golden Core realm. Lu Yi had no reason to hesitate and promptly began to challenge the bottleneck. Lu Yi remained impassive and tranquil, assaulting the bottleneck with spiritual energy for half a month. Half a month later, Lu Yi sat cross-legged, and a crisp sound rang near his ear. Lu Yi's spirit instantly trembled. He was about to break through. He immediately consumed a 7-colored spirit pearl. This was the Tao spirit pearl, awarded for breaking the heavenly Tao limitation. Upon entering Lu Yi's body, the Tao spirit pearl transformed into strands of profound and substantial power, spreading within him. This force, more powerful than that of spiritual energy, was of a higher level, the power of Tao. As the power of Tao spread, strands of Tao sound echoed in Lu Yi's mind while jade lotuses blossomed around him. A golden ring condensed behind his head, and 7-colored smoke unexpectedly appeared, enveloping Lu Yi within it. Amid such anomalies, Lu Yi, sitting cross-legged, seemed to ascend ethereally. The 7-colored spiritual energy vortex within Lu Yi resonated, responding to the power of Tao unleashed by the Tao spirit pearl, gleaming rapidly as it spun. Soon, the spiritual energy within Lu Yi transformed from a liquid state, gradually solidifying, turning into a paste-like substance. This paste-like vortex of spiritual energy spun and gradually coagulated into a spherical shape. This spherical spiritual energy source contained an unimaginable terrifying power. Tao patterns flowed and flickered upon it, with the Tao sound releasing, as enchanting as the music of immortals. Chapter 172, 103, Breakthrough to Golden Core Extra for 600 monthly tickets 3. As the spiritual energy vortex within his body underwent a transformation, the immortal sword seed above it also released a golden light under the incantation of the Tao sounds, and the mysterious immortal Tao patterns flickered incessantly. Fearsome sword intent surrounded Lu Yi's entire body, guarding him like a swimming dragon amidst the 7-colored smoke. Lu Yi mustered his strength and once again attempted to break through the bottleneck. Crag, crag, crag. The transformed spiritual energy was unstoppable, fiercely striking the bottleneck, and a dense series of cracking sounds followed. With a rumble, Lu Yi felt the world open up, as if entering a brand new universe. Heaven and earth opened a new door for him, and all kinds of mysterious conceptions seemed within arm's reach. Lu Yi understood that he had broken through the bottleneck and entered the Golden Core realm. Without hesitation, he immediately took out the other Tao spirit pearls, ingested them one by one, and began to condense his own Golden Core. A Golden Core condensed by the Tao. One Tao spirit pearl after another entered his body, transforming into rich and profound Taoist energy, carrying Tao patterns that were profoundly mysterious and beyond Lu Yi's understanding as they meandered through his body. Some scattered Tao patterns fell amongst his flesh and blood, causing Lu Yi's flesh to glow dazzlingly, emitting a luminous treasure light with a faint scent emerging faintly. Under the effects of the Tao patterns, his body underwent an inexplicable transformation. Lu Yi could clearly sense that his ability to detect spiritual energy had increased several times compared to before. It should be known that Lu Yi had been cultivating with spirit milk during this period, raising his talent to a certain level. Although not equivalent to an acquired spiritual body, within the scope of mortal bodies, his was definitely considered a top existence. Should he go on to cultivate with centennial spirit marrow in the future, transforming his mortal body into an acquired spiritual body would surely be an easy task. But now, as those Tao patterns scattered, his flesh underwent an unknown transformation, and his cultivation speed increased significantly, surpassing the mortal body, likely much stronger than a typical acquired spiritual body. This was only the scattering of the Tao patterns. Most of the immortal Tao patterns were enveloped by the power of Tao and entered the ointment-like golden core that Lu Yi was condensing. With the entry of the rich and unparalleled power of Tao into the golden core, the ointment-like core shimmered with 7-colored rosy clouds, seemingly illuminating Lu Yi's entire body through and through. His body, originally glowing with a luminous treasure light, now had 7-colored rosy clouds emerging all around, making the anomalies around him even grander. Even the sounds of the Tao seemed to resound from within Lu Yi's body, echoing throughout the cultivation room. Inside Lu Yi's body, the ointment-like dantian rapidly condensed, shifting from its gelatinous state to a solid form, and the originally somewhat irregular shape turned into a regular sphere in a spin. It settled within Lu Yi's dantian, a round sun that illuminated the entire area with its spirit light. This golden core was translucent like glazed glass, its interior adorned with 7-colored rosy clouds, as if celestial colors had descended into the mortal world and were absorbed by Lu Yi. As the golden core took form, even grander and more mysterious Tao sounds emerged, echoing within Lu Yi's mind. He felt as if he was understanding yet not fully comprehending, sensing profundity and mystery, as if he was on the brink of enlightenment. In his mind, he involuntarily recalled the cultivation skills he practiced and the Tao and principles he had come to understand, finding them more transparent and clear. The chanting of the Tao sounds followed, and within that glazed golden core, myriad Tao patterns emerged and disappeared within the 7-colored light. The golden core's surroundings twisted, releasing strands of rosy light that filled Lu Yi's entire dantian. Soon, the light pervaded the whole space. A golden core bobbed within the 7-colored rosy light, with an indescribable charm. Only then did Lu Yi fully condense his golden core and break through to the golden core realm. He opened his eyes, which flashed with a trace of 7-colored rosy light that then disappeared. His eyes were deep as abysses, captivating, and the anomalies around his body vanished along with it. The once celestial-like demeanor returned to simplicity. Lu Yi rose, stretching his body and feeling the ceaseless surge of power within him, revealing a hint of a smile. Finally, he had broken through to the golden core realm. The golden core within him was different from those of ordinary cultivators. Generally, a cultivator's golden core is formed according to the foundation they've built, as well as the Tao and principles they've grasped in the foundation establishment realm, along with the magic skills they've mastered, condensing Tao patterns that are inscribed on the surface of the golden core. The more Tao patterns there are, the more solid the foundation is considered to be, naturally making their strength stronger. But his golden core was different. It had no Tao patterns on it. After all, his golden core was entirely condensed from the power of Tao. It could be said to be unique and incomparable to others. Just then, Lu Yi felt a palpitation, with a sense of oppression in his chest. Familiar pressure surfaced, prompting Lu Yi to look up as though he could see through the rocks to the sky above his cave mansion. Heavenly Tao pressure, it was the heavenly tribulation. Lu Yi smiled, stepped forward and vanished from the spot. In the next moment, spiritual energy surged within Lu Yi, flowing into the immortal sword seed and transforming into golden sword qi. He turned into a beam of golden sword light, disappearing from where he stood and flying into the distance. Last time, unprepared, Lu Yi could only undergo tribulation crossing at Ling Luo Peak. This time, naturally, he would not cross the tribulation at Ling Luo Peak again to avoid damage to it. If so, it could not guarantee that his master would not get angry. His master getting angry was indeed terrifying. The time rewinds to several minutes earlier. A thunderous roar arose at Ling Luo Peak, as an incredibly powerful aura slowly seeped out, shaking all the cultivators in seclusion at the inner sect of Ling Luo Peak. Cultivators burst forth into the air and gathered in the sky, filled with shock and doubt. Such a powerful aura, which cultivator is about to break through. It's coming from Ling Luo Peak. As expected of a place where geniuses gather, another cultivator is about to make a breakthrough. Top Ling Luo Peak, The Ling Luo Peak Master lay in bed asleep, her sleeping posture still ungraceful, with pale thighs and arms exposed. The thunderous sound woke the Ling Luo Peak Master, her groggy eyes showing a hint of surprise. This aura, is it that kid? Has the kid broken through? Her body disappeared from its place and appeared outside Lu Yi's cave mansion. Before long, Liu Ningxuang also arrived. Looking at Lu Yi's cave mansion, she said, "Master, junior brother has made a breakthrough." Ling Luo Peak Master nodded slightly. Considering the time, this lad has stayed in the Foundation establishment realm for a few years now, so it's about time for a breakthrough. A while later, Donggong Mingyue also flew over. Her cultivation had reached the 9th layer of Foundation establishment, just one step away from the 10th layer, her practice progressing rapidly. However, the real difficulty in the Foundation establishment realm lies in breaking the heavenly Tao limitation. That's what truly takes time. Lu Yi had spent merely about 2 years on the first 10 layers. As soon as she arrived and saw the Ling Luo Peak Master and Liu Ningxuang, Donggong Mingyue quickly paid her respects. "Master, senior sister, you're here too." At that moment, a beam of golden sword light shot up into the sky, flying out of the sect. "It's senior brother," Donggong Mingyue exclaimed. Ling Luo Peak Master glanced at the dark clouds beginning to slowly gather and said, "The tribulation is coming. Indeed, this lad has broken through to the golden core realm and has also attracted the heavenly tribulation. Let's go have a look." She swept up Liu Ningxuang and Donggong Mingyue and chased in the direction of Lu Yi. Chapter 173, 104. The vast cloud of calamity spreads 12 miles. Not only the 3 from Ling Luo Peak Master appeared, but Elder Ming had also arrived, following behind them. In addition, cultivators like Wu Qingfeng were also present. Soon, Lu Yi arrived at the position where Elder Ming had previously crossed the tribulation, standing in midair. Ling Luo Peak Master kept a distance from Lu Yi with the 3, not getting any closer. Elder Ming also stopped, giving a slight nod to Ling Luo Peak Master before turning to Wu Qingfeng and the others. "Protect Kiddo Lu." Wu Qingfeng nodded, "It should be so." A group of Divinity Transformation Supreme Elders and Nascent Soul Elders dispersed to protect Lu Yi. Dark clouds gathered and slowly spread, with everyone looking up, paying attention to the intensity of Lu Yi's heavenly tribulation. As they waited, more and more cultivators flew out. Someone crossing the tribulation was a major event, which might not occur even once in dozens of years. Even Foundation establishment cultivators would come to watch the excitement. Who is undergoing the tribulation? This, even the sect leader has come. The identity of the cultivator undergoing the tribulation seems to be extraordinary. Seeing the sect leader, the crowd buzzed with discussion. Then many saw Lu Yi under the dark clouds, and upon seeing him, numerous cultivators widened their eyes, shocked. "Is it junior brother Lu Yi? Junior brother Lu Yi is undergoing tribulation." Hiss, how long has it been since junior brother Lu Yi broke through to the Foundation establishment realm? Just 6 or 7 years, right? And now he has broken through to the golden core realm. For ordinary Foundation establishment cultivators, 6 or 7 years might only allow them to break through to a minor realm, and they might not even achieve it at all. Moreover, Lu Yi had broken the 3 heavenly restrictions, crossing the tribulation with Foundation establishment 13-layer cultivation. Such cultivation speed was considered extremely fast. However, this speed was slightly slower compared to when Liu Ningxuang had advanced. Lu Yi understood the reasons for this. His foundation was too solid. After all, Lu Yi had consumed a full 8 bursts of Taoist energy to complete his foundation, and the spiritual energy vortex he had condensed even contained the Tao sound. Each advancement required far more spiritual energy than ordinary cultivators. Nevertheless, Lu Yi had no regrets, for although he consumed much, his storage of spiritual energy also far exceeded that of ordinary cultivators. Currently, Lu Yi's reserve of spiritual energy, even a golden core cultivator wouldn't have as much. The most important point was the Taoist foundation formed by the Taoist energy, containing unimaginable Tao sounds, which allowed Lu Yi to be more in tune with the Tao. This was irreplaceable. Had he not had such a foundation, it would have been difficult for Lu Yi to create cultivation techniques, whether it be the Heavenly Thunder True Dragon technique or the Tribulation Sword form. Only with the help of this Tao sound could Lu Yi successfully create them. Beyond that, this foundation had unimaginable profundity. When Lu Yi was in the East Forest ruins, The blood slaughter illusion realm could have immersed powerful cultivators in delusion, yet Lu Yi was never affected at all. Lu Yi suspected that this foundation had other functions too, but he had yet to discover them. Although the consumption of cultivation resources was substantial, Lu Yi felt it was totally worth it. The gathering of dark clouds was extremely fast, quickly expanding beyond a mile, and still continuing to grow. Wu Qingfeng frowned. A nascent soul tribulation mostly spans within 10 miles. Only some exceptionally gifted geniuses can break beyond 10 miles. I wonder how large the thundercloud will be for Lu Yi, this kid breaking into golden core. Elder Ming stroked his beard. I guess it will be around 6 miles. After all, Kiddo Lu's strength now is sufficiently powerful compared to golden core cultivators, but when facing nascent soul cultivators, he might not match up, especially because he is still only a foundation establishment cultivator after all. Hearing Elder Ming's words, Wu Qingfeng and others nodded slightly. If it were not for Elder Ming's opinion, they might think the range would be even smaller. Soon the thundercloud had gathered to 3 miles and had not slowed down. 5 miles, and it was still not slowing. Everyone's expression stiffened a bit. Elder Ming's face changed, frowning. It seems it will exceed 6 miles. Wu Qingfeng and other divinity transformation cultivators exchanged looks, shocked. This kid, having just broken through from foundation establishment to golden core, can invoke such a terrifying tribulation, and the range of the thundercloud could even compare to a regular nascent soul tribulation for cultivators. This isn't good. The expansion of the thundercloud has not slowed down. At this rate, won't it reach 8 or 9 miles? Hearts lifted with concern. A tribulation spanning 8 or 9 miles, even some relatively weak nascent soul cultivators might not withstand it. What about Lu Yi? He had just broken through to golden core and hadn't even fully completed the breakthrough. Could he withstand it? This was their white cloud sect's immortal seed. If he died in the tribulation, that would really be a joke. Seeing everyone's anxious expressions, Ling Luo Peak Master's lazy voice arose. Relax, this kid has an array plate I gave him. It's enough to withstand a nascent soul realm tribulation. Hearing this, everyone finally let out a sigh of relief and felt assured. However, their expressions stiffened again soon after. The thundercloud above Lu Yi's head had reached 8 miles, yet it was still increasing. 9 miles, 10 miles. Only at 10 miles did the expansion of the thundercloud slow down. Eventually, the range of the thundercloud reached a breadth of 12 miles. Within the dark thundercloud, terrifying bolts of thunder coursed, emitting a heart-palpitating aura. Wu Qingfeng and the others had numb expressions. Even Elder Ming was at a loss for words. 12 miles of thundercloud. 12 miles of thundercloud. This kid, having just broken through to the golden core realm, could the thundercloud actually compare with a nascent soul realm demon? Chapter 174, 104. A vast expanse of robbery clouds 12 Li 2. Merely at the golden core stage, and there's already such a terrifying thundercloud. Just how powerful will the thundercloud be when this kid breaks through to the nascent soul realm? It's a good thing that Ling Luo had the foresight to prepare an array plate for Kiddo Lu in advance. Otherwise, the consequences would be unpredictable. Many divinity transformation realm supreme elders exclaimed one after another. As the thundercloud stabilized, bolts of thunder rolled within, with an immensely terrifying heavenly Tao pressure emanating downwards. Then a roar sounded, and a purple thunderbolt descended from the sky, illuminating the pitch-black heavens. The heavenly thunder, like a divine sword, slashed towards Lu Yi, with surging pressure rolling outwards, causing the foundation establishment cultivators observing nearby to turn pale and retreat continuously. The very space around the thunderbolt trembled and twisted, showing how powerful the heavenly thunder was. Facing such a heavenly tribulation, Lu Yi did not defend himself at all. He stood calmly in the air, allowing the heavenly thunder to fall and envelop his body. The group of supreme elders, who had initially sighed in relief, now widened their eyes and raged furiously. This kid, what is he doing? Faced with a 12-mile thundercloud tribulation, he just stands there, without any resistance. It's over, it's over. Does this kid think this is still the thunder tribulation of the Qi cultivation realm? Could it be that white cloud sect's immortal seed will perish here? The faces of the supreme elders turned ugly, with hearts filled with pain and anxiety. Even Wu Qingfeng had a stiff expression, clenching his fists tightly. Elder Ming's pupils constricted as he carefully sensed the situation. Then he breathed a sigh of relief and shouted, "Stop howling. The kid isn't dead yet. Sense carefully." Hearing these words, the group of supreme elders who had felt a chill in their hearts were shocked and started to sense attentively. Afterward, amidst the wildly raging fluctuations of the heavenly thunder, they sensed Luya's aura. Luya's aura was stable, without the slightest anomaly. The many supreme elders looked at each other, their expressions astonished. Even such heavenly thunder can't harm his physical body. What sort of freak is this kid? A reincarnation of an immortal beast, Qi Ling muttered to himself, cursing under his breath. The Ling Luo Peak Master, who had been calm from the beginning, had a hint of laziness in her eyes, murmuring to herself, "This level of heavenly tribulation naturally cannot trouble him." East Palace Mingyue, seeing that all the supreme elders and her own master were saying her senior brother was all right, finally sighed in relief, her previously pale face regaining a touch of color. Liu Ningxuang looked at the thunder pillar that reached from heaven to earth, her cool eyes flickering as she said, "Junior brother is truly confident. This kid is indeed extremely confident." Even the Ling Luo Peak Master sighed, adding, "He believes his physical body is strong enough to withstand the heavenly tribulation." However, the Ling Luo Peak Master paused for a moment, her expression becoming somewhat strange. "This kid isn't going to have another round of sudden enlightenment, is he?" Hearing this, the other cultivators fell silent, their expressions turning peculiar, their gazes fixed on Lu Yi amidst the thunder pillar. Within the heavenly thunder, Lu Yi's body was surrounded by streaks of lightning, his robust physique glowing brightly, with thunder patterns converging upon him and mysterious lines flickering. These patterns included innate Tao patterns from the body of a true dragon, as well as the mysterious Tao patterns from the previous Taoist energy infusion. These patterns glimmered, intertwined with his physical body under the heavenly thunder, emitting an aura that was both divine and demonic. Even so, Lu Yi still felt a tingling pain on his skin, and he couldn't help but be impressed, truly worthy of being heavenly thunder. His body was originally very strong, and after absorbing the patterns from the Taoist energy, it underwent a transformation. After breaking through to the golden core, it transformed again. Even against nascent soul cultivators, Lu Yi was confident he could defeat them with his physical body alone. Yet even so, he still felt a hint of pain, which showed just how powerful the heavenly thunder was. Lu Yi cast aside all distractions, focusing on comprehending the mysterious essence emanating from the heavenly thunder. Although the heavenly thunder was an obstacle for cultivators' breakthroughs, the Tao and principles it contained were also what cultivators spent their lives pursuing. For this pursuit, countless cultivators had fallen one after another, all in the quest for the Tao. Lu Yi was immersed in the heavenly thunder, perceiving the destructive thunder intent. As the seven-colored mist churned within his dantian, and the glazed golden core spun and bobbed, sounds of the Tao, vaster than those at the Foundation establishment realm, resonated in Lu Yi's mind. Lu Yi, using the remaining chances for sudden enlightenment, began to fall into a state of deep contemplation once more. Contemplating the violent power of destruction of the heavenly thunder, and understanding the thunder intent, he continually perfected his own heavenly thunder true dragon technique. After comprehending the true dragon Tao pattern, the foundational framework of the original heavenly thunder Jade body technique, which began with the Jade body technique, had changed, with the true dragon Tao pattern as the mainstay, interwoven with the destruction inherent in heavenly thunder. The mainstay grew stronger, but the interwoven power of destruction was still lacking somewhat. Now, Lu Yi could perfect it once again. As Lu Yi continued to perfect it, terrifying bolts of heavenly thunder were absorbed into his body, making his aura more profound and frightening. The thunder patterns on his body became even more dazzling. The thunder pattern on his forehead, which had been there originally, was now flickering non-stop, the lines changing and becoming more mysterious and complex, enough to make an ordinary person feel dizzy with just one glance. A bolt of heavenly thunder was absorbed by Lu Yi, its light dimming down, gradually becoming thinner, and then it extinguished. Lu Yi stood in the air, his body etched with thunder patterns, releasing the primordial power of Qi blood, his black hair dancing wildly, each strand carrying streaks of thunder arcs, Qi blood surging like tides, the surrounding air slowly twisting. Chapter 175, 104, A Vast Expanse of Calamitous Clouds 12 Li 3. Feeling such terrifying Qi blood power, Even the divinity transformation realm's supreme elders changed color one after another. This kid, he's truly terrifying. He actually completely absorbed the power of the heavenly thunder and used it for body refinement. His chi blood power is like huge waves crashing down like a wild beast. It was already enough that this kid reached great success in sword intent cultivation and had amazing cultivation talent, but damn it, he has even reached this level of body refinement. Is there no justice in this world? Qi Ling roared angrily. Next to him, Elder Xuan glanced at Qi Ling and spoke in a low voice. Are you talking about justice to an ancient demon that caused a golden core tribulation, even a tribulation comparable to that of an outstanding nascent soul prodigy? Have you lost your mind? Qi Ling opened his mouth, but didn't know how to rebut. If even divinity transformation cultivators were so shocked, not to mention the nascent soul elders. Most of the nascent soul elders from Ling Luo Peak were here, and at this moment, they all looked at Lu Yi with their eyes wide and tongues tied. Dong Wanglian's hand that held the folding fan stiffened, and he said in shock, "This physical body is simply like a divine demon progeny. I actually feel a hint of a threat to my life from this kid. My goodness, is there no justice in this world? A few years ago when this kid joined the peak, I was still thinking about becoming his master," said a burly old man next to him, revealing a smile. Just then he felt a gaze upon him and looked up to see the Ling Luo Peak master silently giving him a glance. The old man immediately stiffened, smiled sheepishly, and didn't dare to speak. The beautiful and alluring nascent soul elder looked at Lu Yi, who radiated vibrant blood energy from his robust body, and couldn't help but be a bit mesmerized, a trace of fascination appearing in her eyes as she murmured to herself. Being able to become this young fellow's master might not be a bad thing at all. His physique is really strong. Meanwhile, from a distance, the outer sect elders and stewards had also come over to enjoy the excitement. Lu Gaiyang and Wang Siki were among them. However, at this moment, the aura around the two had already reached the Golden Core realm. Over the years, Lu Yu would return home every year for the New Year celebration, and when he had free time, he would also pay a visit, bringing back some resources for old Lu and his mother. The two of them originally didn't have particularly good talent, but with the accumulation of vast amounts of centennial spirit dew and millennium spirit dew, even mediocre talents could become geniuses in the eyes of ordinary people. Having already reached the foundation establishment realm years ago, and with such a strong supply of resources, they had no intention to break the heavenly Tao limitation and naturally progressed to the Golden Core realm. Having reached the Golden Core realm, the two were personally invited by Wu Qingfeng to recultivate in the inner sect, but unfortunately, they were accustomed to life in the outer sect and thus stayed on in the affairs hall, becoming elders there. At their side was Qi Feiyu, the elder in charge of the outer affairs hall, and Du Gufang, the grand outer elder, along with other outer sect elders. These elders subtly gathered around Lu Gaiyang and Wang Siki, and even the position of Du Gufang wasn't as prominent as theirs, showing their status in the outer sect. Qi Feiyu gazed at the distant Lu Yi, who had absorbed the heavenly thunder, with eyes nearly popping out, his gaze flickering continuously, and said in shock, "Such heavenly thunder would normally turn me to ashes in an instant, but Lu Yi actually absorbed it directly." Next to him, Du Gufang was equally astounded and exclaimed, "Such power of Qi blood! Even standing this far away, I can feel the waves of heat. The little fellow from the Qi cultivation realm in just a few years has grown into such a monstrous character. Junior brother Lu, junior sister Wang, you've raised a good son indeed." The other elders all agreed vigorously, nodding their heads in unison. Originally, Lu Gaiyang and Wang Siki were a few generations younger than them, but now that both had broken through to the Golden Core realm and were addressed as senior brother and sister, it didn't seem too jarring and even brought them closer. Lu Gaiyang and Wang Siki were equally astounded in their hearts. Lu Yi's name as an immortal seed was well known in the outer sect. They knew Lu Yi was extremely powerful, but did not have a concrete notion of it. When Lu Yi returned home, he was just like before, cheerful and playful, still getting lectured by Wang Siki and taught lessons by Lu Gaiyang. Now seeing Lu Yi facing the tribulation, they finally had a concrete sense of his strength. Lu Gaiyang's eyes nearly popped out as he murmured softly, "My goodness, I always knew this kid was fierce, but I never expected him to be this extreme." Meanwhile, Wang Siki felt a surge of emotions, but she smiled at Du Gufang and Qi Feiyu, saying, "The two senior brothers flatter us too much. We weren't able to help Yi all that much. It's his own astonishing talent that's brought him to this level of strength. If anything, he's the one who often helps us, his parents. Thinking about the resources that Lu Yi brought back each time, Wang Siki's heart was still tremendously shocked. Such resources could drive a golden core cultivator mad, and even a nascent soul cultivator would be envious. Stroking his beard, Du Gufang had a warm smile on his face as he gently said, "This is also due to junior brother Lu and junior sister Wang's own good fortune and destiny." The others nodded as well, feeling quite envious in their hearts. If they had a son like Lu Yi, they'd do anything for him. Watching the thunder in the clouds regathering, Wang Siki expressed her concern. "I hope Yi can successfully cross the tribulation." Even though she was well aware of Lu Yi's strength, as a mother, Wang Siki couldn't help feeling some worry. The others also offered their reassurances, their words filled with genuine warmth and affection. While they were conversing, another bolt of lightning formed within the clouds and struck down. This bolt was stronger than the last, but Lu Yi's physical body had also grown stronger than before. Still, such lightning could not harm him. Lu Yi remained in deep contemplation, drawing upon the power within the heavenly thunder, meditating on the power of destruction it contained as well as the thunder intent, constantly refining his own cultivation skill. Soon after, the third bolt of heavenly thunder fell, but Lu Yi remained unmoved, treating the heavenly thunder as nothing, completely immersed in his own meditation. The group of cultivators had grown numb to the spectacle. Qi Ling couldn't help but speak out. "I have lived for thousands of years and have never seen anyone cross the heavenly tribulation like this. To cross it with his physical body is one thing, but why does this kid always have a sudden enlightenment every time? His body has become several times stronger than before. Each lightning strike seems to follow the same pattern. Today has truly been an eye-opener." Wu Qingfeng, on the other hand, laughed. "I once wandered through the southern state and saw a young cultivator with a terrifyingly strong body. His strength was formidable, and he too used his body to cross the heavenly tribulation, refining himself in the process. However, he was crossing the nascent soul tribulation, incomparable to Kiddo Lu." Elder Ming shook his head and chuckled. "It's no comparison. Kiddo Lu meditates and improves his own body-refining techniques amidst the tribulation. By now, that body-refining technique has probably reached the divinity transformation realm, hasn't it?" Hearing this, everyone was temporarily at a loss for words. A cultivator just entering the golden core realm, developing a body-refining technique of the divinity transformation realm, would sound insane to anyone else. While everyone was talking, the clouds of heavenly thunder dispersed after 3 strikes, revealing a clear sky. Lu Yi awoke from his moment of enlightenment, his eyes flickering with traces of thunder. He exhaled a breath of stale air, his qi and blood settling down as his body calmed. At this moment, he had finally and thoroughly broken through to the golden core realm. The thought of the task reward for breaking through to the golden core realm made Lu Yi's lips curve up into a smile, filling him with joy. At the Foundation Establishment 13 layer, Lu Yi naturally issued a task for himself to break through to the golden core realm, the reward of which was so generous that even he was astonished. Chapter 176, 105, 99 Sword Intent. Task: break through to the golden core realm, completed. Reward: high-grade treasure cold glass sword, top-grade treasure red flame purple copper furnace, 1 caddy of enlightenment tea leaves, designated skill level +2. Claim rewards now, yes no. High-grade treasures and top-grade treasures are so precious that even cultivators in the divinity transformation realm might not be able to possess them. Lu Yi had received enlightenment tea leaves as rewards before, but they had always been given out a few leaves at a time. He could hardly believe that this time it was awarded by the caddy. The effects of the enlightenment tea are tremendous. Up until now, Lu Yi had only drunk a few leaves worth of tea brewed from them and felt his comprehension had greatly improved. This time being calculated by the caddy, Lu Yi thought he could drink it every day. No, drinking it every day would be too extravagant, but drinking it every month was doable. By then, his comprehension might be enhanced to an unimaginable realm. Coupled with his Tao sound, his grasp of the Tao would certainly rise to a new level. The final reward, designated skill level +2, was also extremely valuable. Now that Lu Yi had broken through to the golden core realm, he was eligible to cultivate the golden core chapter of the Immortal Sword Scripture. The reward for increasing the skill level would save him a lot of cultivation time. Lu Yi didn't claim his task rewards right away because he saw his master, along with his senior sister and junior sister, flying towards him. Donggong Mingyue came to Lu Yi's side with a beaming smile. "Congratulations, senior brother, on your breakthrough to the Golden Core." Lu Yi smiled gently and said earnestly, "Now that I'm at Golden Core, you must work hard, junior sister." He was counting on her to break through to the Golden Core realm soon so that his Thunder Intent realm could improve faster, and he could also farm more Centennial Spirit Marrow. After all, it was surely not as convenient to obtain Centennial Spirit Marrow from Yunzai and Han Yu, since they weren't in the White Cloud sect. Upon hearing Lu Yi's words, Donggong Mingyue's smile stiffened, and she became quite sullen. Liu Ningxuang gave a light smile. "Congratulations, junior brother, for advancing further on the path of immortality." Lu Yi smiled and looked at Liu Ningxuang. "Senior sister waits for me ahead. In the future, your junior brother will inevitably catch up, and we will walk the path of immortality together." Liu Ningxuang's cool face carried a faint smile as she nodded slightly. The Ling Luo Peak Master, looking very drowsy, said, "Your cultivation progress is excellent, and your foundation is solid. Keep it up and strive to become an immortal." Lu Yi was speechless. His master made becoming an immortal sound as simple as having a good meal the next day. Nevertheless, he nodded, "Disciple will definitely work hard." Elder Ming, Wu Qingfeng, and others also flew over, including elders from both the Divinity Transformation realm and the Nascent Soul realm, to congratulate Lu Yi on his breakthrough to the Golden Core realm. Lu Yi responded with smiles, as these elders were all his seniors, and he didn't show any impatience. It was Lu Yi who grew impatient, but it seemed the Ling Luo Peak Master was growing impatient. Soon after, the Ling Luo Peak Master, looking at everyone, spoke, "All right, this kid just had a breakthrough and needs to stabilize his cultivation base. Don't disturb him anymore. Everyone can go now." Seeing the Ling Luo Peak Master shooing people away, Wu Qingfeng and the others exchanged glances, but still nodded in agreement. After people said their goodbyes, Lu Yi, the Ling Luo Peak Master, Liu Ningxuang, and Donggong Mingyue flew together towards Ling Luo Peak. On the way, the Ling Luo Peak Master yawned and said with annoyance, "I'm so tired. No one lets you rest properly." Lu Yi's expression was stiff. He suspected his master had shooed the others away just because he was feeling sleepy. Back in his own cave mansion, Lu Yi manifested the task rewards. The high-grade treasure Cold Glass Sword was a long sword cast from a substance similar to Xuanbing Blue Jade, emitting a bone-chilling cold. The sword, similar to the Profound Sun Sword, possessed great power as a treasure, especially since the Cold Glass Sword greatly amplified ice element techniques, making it an exceptionally powerful artifact. It was a pity that he hadn't learned any ice element techniques. To him, it wasn't much different in use from the Profound Sun Sword. As for the Red Flame Purple Copper Furnace being a top-grade treasure, it was naturally even stronger. It was incredibly sturdy, could seal opponents, be used for defense, lock down spaces, and its interior contained extremely hot flames that, with sufficient spiritual energy, could refine incredibly powerful cultivators. It was a versatile and powerful artifact that could be used for both offense and defense, and Lu Yi quite liked it. After securing the caddy of enlightenment tea leaves, Lu Yi indulgently brewed a pot of tea with 3 leaves and relished drinking it as he began to study the Golden Core chapter of the Immortal Sword Scripture. The Golden Core chapter of the Immortal Sword Scripture was far more mysterious than the Foundation Establishment chapter. However, with some understanding of the immortal intent and the aid of the task rewards and enlightenment tea, it didn't take long for Lu Yi to get a foothold in it. Thereafter, Lu Yi resumed his dedicated cultivation. With the breakthrough to the Golden Core realm, his physical cultivation talents grew stronger. Plus, cultivating the Golden Core chapter of the Immortal Sword Scripture, his efficiency in absorbing spiritual energy improved yet again. Even the powerful spiritual energy contained in the myriad spirit dew couldn't keep up with several hours of his cultivation. Fortunately, Lu Yi had obtained plenty of Centennial Spirit Marrow during the exchange meeting with the 3 sects. Otherwise, he might have run out of resources. Using the Centennial Spirit Marrow, Lu Yi continued his steady cultivation. As time flew by, a year passed in a flash. Having broken through the Foundation Establishment 13th layer and condensed the Tao Golden Core, Lu Yi's foundation was unrivaled, and his pace of cultivation post-Golden Core realm was exceedingly swift. Chapter 177, 105, 99 Sword Intent 2. In just 1 year, Lu Yi had broken through 2 realms, reaching the Golden Core 3rd layer. Besides the enhancement of his cultivation base, the greatest improvement for Lu Yi was his sword intent. Due to Elder Ming's breakthrough to the Cave Void realm, his sword intent had also greatly improved, resulting in significantly better rewards for the sect tasks that Lu Yi discussed with him. Furthermore, since Elder Ming had now retired and no longer oversaw the book storage pavilion, Lu Yi had more time and frequently discussed the Tao with Elder Ming. This led to Lu Yi's sword intent improving at an extremely fast pace. Just a few days ago, his sword intent had reached 99%, only one step away from perfection. If his sword intent achieved perfection, he could consolidate his sword intent into a sword Tao domain, and at that time, Lu Yi's combat power would see a massive increase. Unfortunately, this final step was incredibly difficult, and there had been little improvement in sword intent from his recent discussions with Elder Ming. This had caused Lu Yi some distress. Besides this, the improvement in Lu Yi's thunder intent realm was also commendable, especially since his junior sister had been practicing diligently, progressing well in her cultivation, which consistently and steadily improved his understanding of thunder intent after sparring with her. However, compared to his sword intent, there was still a significant gap. To this date, it was only at 85%. This was even after Lu Yi had experienced a sudden enlightenment in the heavenly thunder, which had significantly enhanced it. As for the water intent realm, since senior brother Jiang Fan was always out on missions gathering resources, its improvement was relatively slower, currently only reaching slightly over 50%, which was still better than the heart of ice and natural realm. After all, it was rare for Lu Yi to see Xianxia and Han Yu, and he hadn't sparred with them at all in the past year. Besides this, Lu Yi's progress in his cultivation skills was rather rapid. The previously acquired blood-burning secret technique had been cultivated to level 8. The amount of essence blood burned had reduced significantly, while the power it granted had increased substantially. The newly refined Heavenly Thunder True Dragon technique, improved a year ago, had advanced to level 6. At this moment, Lu Yi's physical strength was astonishing. Lifting mountains and overturning seas was effortless for him. The Golden Core skill, 7 Mysterious Sword skill, had reached its limit long ago. The same was true for his transformation technique. Besides this, the Tribulation Sword form had also been progressively perfected by Lu Yi, reaching level 7. Even the nascent soul skill, Green Wood Transformation skill, that he had acquired not too long ago, Lu Yi had cultivated it to level 6. It could be said that Lu Yi's progress was quite comprehensive, with significant improvements in all aspects. Many events had also occurred over this year. Lu Yi often ran errands for his master, buying food and drinks at the workshop, where he also heard many pieces of news. After the Trisect Exchange meeting, the 3 sects had already decided to attempt attacking the mountain gates of the Heavenly Snake sect and the Blood Spirit sect. Among them, Elder Ming, as a cave void sword cultivator, was the primary central force. 9 months ago, Elder Ming had headed to the mountain gate of the Blood Spirit sect with the allied forces of the 3 sects. The cultivators included several divinity transformation realm supreme elders from the 3 sects, tens of nascent soul elders, and naturally, even more cultivators from the Golden Core and Foundation establishment realms. However, they were intercepted before they could even reach the mountain gate of the Blood Spirit sect. The interceptors were naturally the powerhouses from the Blood Spirit sect and the Heavenly Snake sect, along with 2 other sects, the Yellow Mountain sect and the Yuluo sect. A bloody battle ensued, and a cave void old monster from the Yuluo sect, extremely formidable, managed to hold back Elder Ming. If it weren't for Elder Ming's incredibly powerful sword Tao cultivation, surpassing that cave void old monster slightly, and eventually forcing the retreat of the Blood Spirit sect's 4-sect coalition, the consequences would have been unimaginable. Even so, the great sects, warriors still paid a heavy price. Many of the Golden Core and Foundation establishment cultivators died, and even several nascent soul elders perished, along with 1 divinity transformation realm supreme elder from Cold Winter Valley. Of course, the 4 sects of the Blood Spirit sect also suffered tremendously. The battle was extremely fierce, and from the snippets of first-hand experience shared by brothers and sisters at the workshop, the battlefield was terrifying, a land drenched in blood, rivers formed from the flow, the cultivators of Foundation establishment and Golden Core realm barely able to protect themselves. Surviving was merely due to the powerhouses from both sides having their reservations. Otherwise, not a single cultivator from the Golden Core and Foundation establishment would have been left alive. Surviving to return was purely by luck. When those brothers and sisters spoke of this battle, their faces still bore expressions of lingering fear, illustrating how dreadful the battle had been. All 7 sects had suffered such heavy losses, which inevitably fueled their vengefulness. The previously subsiding 5 sects' great war ignited once more, this time even more fiercely than before. Last time it was 5 sects involved, this time there were fully 7. The Yellow Mountain sect was not weaker than the White Cloud sect's trisect, and with the even stronger Yuluo sect, the 3 sects gradually found themselves being suppressed, and the situation wasn't very favorable. It was only because of the previous battle where Elder Ming, with his awe-inspiring sword intent, made the 4 sects of the Blood Spirit sect extremely cautious and reluctant to press too hard. Otherwise, their aggressiveness would have been even greater. Even so, in these battles, the 3 great sects still lost many disciples, and even powerful figures at the Golden Core and nascent Soul Realm fell. Under such circumstances, the White Cloud sect, the 10,000 Flowers sect, and Cold Winter Valley naturally wouldn't sit by and await their doom, and just as the Blood Spirit sect and the Heavenly Snake sect could continue to ally with other sects, so could they. The vast Qingzhou region was home to countless sects, among which were 13 top-tier sects with formidable strength. Chapter 178, 105, 99 Sword Intent 3. Now 7 sects had joined the battlefield, leaving the remaining 5 sects rather passive. The flames of war blazed on, and even if the other sects did not wish to engage in the war, they were easily affected and found it hard to keep themselves unaffected. 3 months ago, each of the 7 sects had dispatched strong cultivators to the other 6 sects: Bright Moon Valley, Iron Heart sect, Red Cloud sect, Black Jade Peak, Wenjian Manor, Molin Valley, intending to draw these sects into their respective camps. Simultaneously, the great war among the 7 sects continued unabated. The whole of Qingzhou had been plunged into chaos ever since. Lu Yi reflected inwardly that it was fortunate for him that his cultivation resources were still sufficient. He did not need to leave home for tasks to obtain any cultivation resources. Otherwise, even with his current strength, venturing out was not particularly safe. One day, as Lu Yi was cultivating, suddenly he heard Liu Ningxuang's voice outside his cave mansion. "Junior brother, come out and meet me." Lu Yi was startled, somewhat surprised. His senior sister was usually cold and rarely sought him out. Why had she suddenly come? Lu Yi exited the cave mansion and saw Liu Ningxuang standing outside, dressed in white, her peerless appearance as flawless as carved white jade. Besides Liu Ningxuang, Lu Yi saw another woman. This woman was dressed in simple hemp clothes, holding a white jade sword, with long sword-like eyebrows, thin red lips, a high nose bridge, and exceptionally handsome features. A woman, yet she possessed a rare heroic air. Lu Yi was startled and gave her a surprised glance. This woman, Lu Yi had never seen her before at Ling Luo Peak. Lu Yi smiled and said, "Senior sister, what brings you here? Isn't junior sister with you? And who might this be?" Typically, whenever Liu Ningxuang came over, she was accompanied by Donggong Mingyue. This time, however, she brought another woman with her, which surprised Lu Yi. Hearing this, Liu Ningxuang smiled lightly and said, "This is Jian Ruyu, the young master of Wenjian Manor, who has entered Divine Sword Sect and is the unparalleled genius of Divine Sword Sect. She is a good friend I made during my travels, and today Ruyu, along with the Manor Master of Wenjian Manor, came here because they were very curious about your sword intent, so I brought her to meet you." Upon hearing this, Lu Yi's pupils slightly constricted, and he felt a bit shaken. Wenjian Manor, one of the 13 sects of Qingzhou, naturally had significant strength, and it was unexpected that their young master would join another sect. This showed just how powerful the Divine Sword Sect must be. However, Wenjian Manor's visit to White Cloud Sect at this time likely indicated an interest in joining the alliance with White Cloud Sect. This was good news for White Cloud Sect. Jian Ruyu looked at Lu Yi and laughed brightly. "You are Ningxuang's junior brother, no need to be so formal. Just call me Sister Ruyu." "Sister Ruyu." Jian Ruyu nodded, sizing up Lu Yi, a curious light twinkling in her clear eyes as she said, "Little brother Yi, Ningxuang has continually praised your sword talent. Even Elder Ming said he is inferior to you. Is it really that strong?" Lu Yi smiled. "It's just senior sister and Elder Ming being too kind. I'm really quite ordinary. Jian Ruyu, eager to try, laughed and said, I'm here with my father at White Cloud Sect mainly to meet you. I'd like to have a little competition with you. Lu Yu was taken aback and said somewhat oddly, Sister Ruyu, your cultivation base has already reached the nascent soul stage. Do you want to compete with me? If it were just a general nascent soul cultivator, that would be one thing. But Jian Ruyu is a peerless genius of the Divine Sword sect, probably not much less than his own senior sister. Lu Yi really didn't have much confidence he could beat her. Jian Ruyu smiled and said, Of course, we will only compare sword Dao and nothing else. Hearing this, Lu Yi raised his eyebrows and muttered to himself, I am to compare sword Dao with Jian Ruyu. Task: compare sword Dao with Jian Ruyu. Reward: enhancement of sword intent, 1 sword intent grass. Accept yes no. Lu Yi naturally accepted. Since Jian Ruyu could become the peerless genius of the Divine Sword sect, her sword talent probably wasn't bad. His own sword intent was stuck at 99%, without any improvement. If he could enhance it during the sparring with Jian Ruyu, that would indeed be a good thing. Moreover, there was also a sword intent grass, which was a good item. When Lu Yi was in the foundation establishment stage, his master had specifically asked the Divine Sword sect for one. Thinking of this, Lu Yi said with a light smile, Since Sister Ruyu has already said so, I shouldn't refuse. His words made Jian Ruyu's eyes sparkle, and she exclaimed with a laugh, Great! There's no better day than today, let's do it now. As she spoke, strands of incredibly sharp sword intent emanated from around Jian Ruyu. This terrifying sword intent soared into the sky, as if it would tear the heavens apart and sever everything. The thick clouds above Ling Luo Peak were sliced fragment by fragment under the assault of such sword intent. Such a commotion naturally attracted attention. Soon, streaks of breaking air sounded out. Wu Qingfeng and a handsome middle-aged man who bore some resemblance to Jian Ruyu came together. Besides them, Qi Ling and several supreme elders followed closely. The nascent soul elders of Ling Luo Peak and numerous brothers and sisters also emerged from their retreats, all exclaiming in surprise. Such a powerful sword intent. This sword intent. Could it be junior brother Lu's sword intent? So sharp, probably everything would be severed in front of this sword intent. Let's go and see what's happening. One by one, cultivators flew toward Lu Yi's cave mansion. On the other side, Elder Ming unknowingly had already appeared on top of a large tree, silent and unnoticed. High in the sky, Wu Qingfeng, looking down at Jian Ruyu whose sword intent reached the heavens, exclaimed, Brother Jingxian, your niece Ruyu's sword intent has reached the transformation stage, truly impressive. Jian Jingxian watched his daughter below, showing a satisfied smile, yet spoke very modestly. Brother Qingfeng flatters her. Your sword intent has been honed to such a level largely thanks to the Divine Sword sect. After all, it is the sacred land of the sword Dao. He glanced at Lu Yi standing in front of Jian Ruyu, a flicker of curiosity in his eyes, and smiled. That young man must be the immortal seed of the White Cloud sect that Elder Ming keeps praising Lu Yi, right? Facing such sword intent, and yet remaining unfazed, truly remarkable. Wu Qingfeng nodded slightly and chuckled. Indeed, that's Lu Yi. It seems your niece Ruyu wants to spar sword Dao with young Lu Yi. Niece Ruyu is known as a sword Dao prodigy in the Divine Sword sect, and young Lu Yi's sword intent is equally astonishing. This sparring is indeed worth looking forward to. Chapter 179, 106, Sword Tao Order containing Supreme Sword Intent, 800 monthly tickets for more updates. Jian Jingxian nodded slightly, looking downward. The young people of today are incredible. Let me see just how strong the sword intent of this younger generation really is. Through their conversations, everyone had come to understand the situation and were now watching intently, filled with anticipation. Jian Ruyu was a peerless genius of the Divine Sword sect, naturally gifted with exceptional strength. While Lu Yi was considered an immortal seed of the White Cloud sect, his various performances had always been observed by everyone within the sect, showcasing his unparalleled talent. Both were extraordinary individuals, making this competition of sword intent highly anticipated. Liu Ningxuang drifted away, leaving only Lu Yi and Jian Ruyu at the entrance of the cave mansion. Jian Ruyu's eyes shimmered with sword light, focused solely on Lu Yi. She said softly, Little brother Yi, here I come. The next moment, she pinched her sword technique, and a stream of white jade sword intent rushed out toward Lu Yi, its sharp sword intent seemingly piercing through space, drastically warping and indenting the void, striking fear into the hearts of those watching. Lu Yi's expression remained calm, his hands sweeping forward as if drawing a chasm in the sky. A golden sword curtain appeared in front of him. The white jade sword intent hit the sword curtain, causing it to tremble slightly but without any signs of breaking. Seeing this, Giant Ruyu's eyes lit up, and she exclaimed with a smile, "Good." Her body's sword intent grew even sharper and more intense, her hands moving with a mysterious arc, circling in front of her, as streams of white jade sword light converged and transformed into a sword dragon. The white jade sword dragon roared as it charged at Lu Yi. The sword dragon fiercely collided with the sword curtain. The sword curtain shook violently and subsequently began to crack and shatter. Lu Yi felt somewhat surprised inside. It must be said that Jian Ruyu's sword intent was indeed very strong, likely having reached 80%. Considering that Jian Ruyu was merely at the nascent soul realm and had not even reached the divinity transformation realm, her formidable sword intent was almost unbelievable. Initially, even Elder Ming at the peak of divinity transformation had only a little over 60% sword intent. One could imagine just how talented Jian Ruyu was. No wonder she was considered as a monstrous genius of the divine sword sect. Lu Yi couldn't help admiring internally. The divine sword sect, known as a Sword Tao sacred land, truly produced outstanding genuine talents. Unfortunately, such a level of sword intent cultivation, when compared to his own, still fell short. The deeper the sword intent, the greater the gap. Between 99% sword intent and 80% sword intent, there lies an immense gulf. Lu Yi's eyes flashed with a streak of sword light, his immortal intent slowly revolving as he once again drew a sword curtain. This sword curtain, imbued with a thread of the immortal intention, shone brilliantly like gold, thick as a mountain. The white jade sword dragon roared as it struck the sword curtain, which flickered and dimmed slightly, but exhibited an unimaginable tenacity, remaining stable without any dispersion, no matter how the white jade sword dragon impacted it. Jian Ruyu's sword technique changed continuously, her sword intent bursting forth, yet still unable to alter the situation. Her valiant face shifted slightly, staring at that golden sword curtain, this strong. She frowned, uttered a light cry as the white jade sword dragon reared its head, its jade brilliance bursting forth. Its originally jade-like body slowly turned transparent and eventually condensed into a 100-meter-long sword. The long sword, imbued with a terrifyingly heart-palpitating aura, sliced through the air, causing the very space to distort and ripple. Jian Ruyu pinched her sword technique and shouted, "Slash!" The 100-meter-long sword formed from white jade sword intent stood upright, slashing towards the sword curtain. Boom! A tremendous booming sound erupted, sword qi shot out, and the surrounding mountains shook while the ground even cracked. Just then the sword qi abruptly vanished without a trace, and no one knew how it had disappeared. Ling Luo Peak Master appeared nearby, glanced at the shattered trees and muttered without words, "Really, can't they fight outside?" Ling Luo Peak Master glared at Lu Yi in the distance, quite dissatisfied. Even as the ground shook and the 100-meter-long sword continuously pressed down, the golden sword curtain, though dimmed, still possessed an unimaginable tenacity, standing unyielding. Moments later, the 100-meter-long sword gradually crumbled, and although the golden sword curtain had dimmed, it remained completely intact. Jian Ruyu looked at the impassable-like sword curtain silently for a moment, then exhaled lightly, looking at Lu Yi with astonishment, and said, "Little brother Yi, you are indeed formidable. Your sword intent is stronger than mine." Lu Yi smiled and said, "Not by too much. I too had given it my all." Jian Ruyu shook her head. "Strong is strong. Even if it's just a bit stronger, it is still strong." Cultivators watching the sword duel in the sky, seeing them determine the winner, began discussing fervently. "It seems junior brother Lu has won." "I'm not surprised at all. How many miracles has junior brother Lu created since he entered the inner sect? Even though his opponent is a genius from the divine sword sect, I still felt that junior brother Lu could win." "Me too, I don't know why, but I now have a mysterious confidence in junior brother Lu." Jian Jingxian watched Lu Yi for a long time in silence, then looked towards Wu Qingfeng, sighed softly, "Brother Qingfeng, what a fortunate fate. The White Cloud sect truly has such a genius. As long as he doesn't fall, the White Cloud sect could one day become a legendary immortal sect." Wu Qingfeng was inwardly delighted, although he appeared very humble on the surface, smiling. "Brother Jingxian, you exaggerate. I only hope that the White Cloud sect can rise to the next level." He then sighed. "It's a pity Qingzhou has recently been in chaos. The White Cloud sect is deeply mired, struggling to extricate itself." Jian Jingxian fell silent for a moment, then looked at Wu Qingfeng, smiled and said, "Brother Qingfeng, perhaps we can discuss the matter of our two factions forming an alliance." Chapter 180, 106, Sword Tao Order containing Supreme Sword Intent, 800 monthly tickets for more updates due. Hearing this, Wu Qingfeng was stunned, then revealed a look of surprise looking at Jian Jingxian. "Brother Jingxian, are you serious?" The Supreme Elders nearby were also very surprised. "Of course I'm serious. You and White Cloud Sect's Mr. Liu are good friends, and now she gets along very well with little brother Yi. Since the two talents of our families are so harmonious, it's not a bad idea for our sects to advance and retreat together." Jian Jingxian glanced at Jian Ruyu, who was talking with Lu Yi and Liu Ningxuang, and a doting look flashed in his eyes as he said with a light chuckle. Wu Qingfeng glanced at Lu Yi and Liu Ningxuang, his eyes filled with surprise. "Great. If the two sects can advance and retreat together, that would be best. Let's discuss this properly." "Ha, let's go." The group left, and the nascent soul elders and disciples who had been watching the excitement also started discussing among themselves before leaving one by one. Afterward, Elder Ming also disappeared without a trace. The Ling Luo Peak Master, seeing that there would be no further action, muttered something under his breath and then disappeared from the spot. Soon, only Liu Ningxuang and Jian Ruyu were left at the entrance to Lu Yi's cave mansion. Lu Yi smiled. Sister Ruyu, since you're here, why not come in and sit for a while?" Liu Ningxuang nodded slightly. "All right." Lu Yi smiled. "Since Sister Ruyu wishes to, let's have some food and drink." The three of them entered the cave mansion, and Lu Yi took out spirit food and spiritual wine. In these past days, aside from diligently cultivating, running errands for his master, and occasionally receiving spirit food formulas and spirit wine formulas as rewards, Lu Yi also garnered rewards sometimes from the trial tower tasks. Lu Yi had quite a few spirit food formulas in his hands, but most of them were for the Foundation Establishment realm, which Lu Yi was too lazy to practice. There was one for the Golden Core realm, the braised pork, and a nascent soul realm spirit food formula, the Golden Silk Spirit Dew Noodles. Braised pork was a spirit food that could increase cultivation speed, while Golden Silk Spirit Dew Noodles was a rather precious food that could enhance comprehension in a short period of time. Lu Yi had already mastered braised pork to the limit realm, but he had only recently acquired the Golden Silk Spirit Dew Noodles. Considering the difficulty, he had only reached level 5 so far. Even so, when combined with Enlightenment Tea, the effect was still incredibly good. As for spiritual wine, apart from Jade Dew wine, Lu Yi had also obtained several Qi Cultivation realm and Foundation Establishment realm spiritual wines, which he hadn't practiced, as their levels were quite low, and it felt like a waste of time. Lu Yi took out various kinds of spirit food, and the rich aroma made Jian Ruyu's eyes light up, while Liu Ningxuang, who was used to it, remained calm and unaffected. Lu Yi then took out some Jade Dew wine, poured a cup for both of them, and filled his own. He smiled and said, "A toast to Sister Ruyu." Jian Ruyu, very forthright, laughed and clinked glasses with Lu Yi, downing her drink in one gulp. Feeling the change in her spiritual power, Jian Ruyu's pretty face turned a shade of red. She exhaled a breath of alcohol and praised, "Ningxuang was right, such good wine. No wonder she has been improving faster than before in recent days." Liu Ningxuang sipped the wine and smiled lightly. Then she saw the Golden Silk Spirit Dew Noodles and expressed some surprise. "Junior brother, have you been practicing a new spirit food?" This is the nascent soul realm spirit food, Golden Silk Spirit Dew Noodles. It's quite difficult to make, and I acquired it a while back. Only recently have I made some progress," Lu Yi said with a light chuckle. Liu Ningxuang became curious. "What effect does this food have?" Lu Yi smiled mysteriously. "Why don't you try it, sister, and see for yourself?" Seeing Lu Yi play mysterious, Liu Ningxuang remained composed with a graceful laugh. "Then I shall give it a try." Liu Ningxuang opened her mouth and took a bite of the noodles. Soon, her expression changed, and her usually cool eyes showed an unimaginable look of shock. "These noodles." Jian Ruyu, witnessing such an expression for the first time on the usually steady Liu Ningxuang, wore a peculiar look on her face and curiously asked, "Ningxuang, is there something wrong with these noodles?" The shock in Liu Ningxuang's eyes hadn't dissipated as she looked at Lu Yi and said slowly, "These noodles, they actually improved my comprehension somewhat." Hearing that, Jian Ruyu fell silent. She silently picked up a strand of noodles and tasted it, and then her expression changed dramatically. She suddenly started slurping up the noodles in front of her without any concern for her image. Lu Yi, looking at Jian Ruyu who was slurping noodles like a rough man, was at a loss for words. "Sister Ruyu, eat slower. It's just a little bit of noodles, is it worth this reaction?" After Jian Ruyu struggled to finish the noodles, she widened her eyes looking at Lu Yi. "What do you mean, just a little bit of noodles? Little brother Yi, do you have any idea how hard it is to improve comprehension?" Lu Yi fell silent. He thought it was okay. After all, he had a chance for sudden enlightenment every month and still had a pound of enlightenment tea. He really hadn't found comprehension that hard to improve. But he didn't say this out loud. With a serious face, he said, "It is indeed quite difficult to improve." Jian Ruyu nodded. "Considering that, think about it. Your gold and silk spirit dew noodles can increase comprehension. How precious is that?" Lu Yi nodded slightly. "It is precious indeed." Jian Ruyu's eyes sparkled as she stared at Lu Yi, smiling. "Little brother Yi, you're truly a treasure. How about joining me at the Divine Sword Sect? With your talent, you might even become the Divine Sword Sect Saint Heir." Chapter 181, 106. Sword Tao Order containing Supreme Sword Intent, 800 monthly tickets for more updates 3. As Jian Ruyu spoke, she felt a chill and shrank her neck, only to see Liu Ningxuang putting down her noodles and silently looking at her. "Ruyu, you mustn't speak carelessly like that." Jian Ruyu laughed awkwardly. "Ha ha ha, I was just joking. Little brother Yi is your junior brother. How could I dare to steal him away?" Then she looked at Lu Yi and smiled. "Ningxuang and I are closest sisters, so little brother Yi, as her junior brother, you'll be my junior brother too from now on." Lu Yi was at a loss for words, not knowing what to say. He could only respond with a smile. At that moment, Jian Ruyu thought of something and spoke up. "By the way, junior brother, our Divine Sword Sect is going to hold a Sword Tao conference in 3 years, inviting all sword cultivators from the Eastern Domain to discuss the Sword Tao. This event is a grand gathering for sword cultivators in the Eastern Domain. With your sword talent, if you attend the Sword Tao conference, you will surely gain immensely. As your senior sister, I have the privilege of inviting someone directly. Here is the Sword Tao order. With this, you can go to the Divine Sword Sect and participate in the Sword Tao conference." The sword-shaped token was small, but it faintly contained a very powerful and profound sword intent that even Lu Yi felt terrifying. He stared wide-eyed, somewhat uncertainly at the sword-shaped token. "The sword intent in here is..." Jian Ruyu was startled and looked at Lu Yi in amazement. "You can actually sense the sword intent within it." Then she laughed. "It seems your Sword Tao realm is higher than I imagined. This Sword Tao order was issued by the old master himself. It contains a trace of his own Sword Tao essence. Only sword cultivators with more than 90% sword intent can detect it." Adding, she said, "The old master is a peerless sword cultivator who has comprehended the supreme sword domain. He is only half a step away from tribulation crossing and ascension." Hearing this, Lu Yi's pupils constricted slightly in astonishment. The legendary old master of the Divine Sword Sect, who used the Heavenly Tao sword to suppress the heavenly demons. Jian Ruyu smiled. "Exactly, that's him." Lu Yi suddenly understood, staring deeply at the hidden sword intent within the Sword Tao order. No wonder. It was no surprise that the profound sword intent left by such an extraordinary sword cultivator made him feel terrified. Lu Yi pondered for a moment. His current Sword Tao realm seemed to have reached a threshold, only a whisker away from achieving perfect sword intent. But after achieving perfect sword intent, one still needs a special opportunity to step into the legendary sword domain. Perhaps this Sword Tao conference could provide him with some gains. Thinking this, Lu Yi muttered to himself, "I must participate in the Divine Sword Sect Sword Tao conference." Task: participate in the Sword Tao conference. Reward: 1 sword heart fruit, cave void sword Tao skill, yellow spring and blue sky. Accept, yes, no. Upon seeing the task reward, Lu Yi was inwardly shocked and overjoyed. Sword heart fruit. This was the legendary Sword Tao holy fruit. Legend said that consuming a sword heart fruit was akin to being born with a sword heart, greatly enhancing one's comprehension of the Sword Tao daily, turning one into an extremely strong sword talent. There were even records in ancient texts of a supreme sword cultivator who had consumed a sword heart fruit in his youth, eventually consolidated his sword domain, breaking through the heavenly tribulation, and achieving tribulation crossing to immortal. A single sword heart fruit could forge a supreme sword heart. This was what Tiananmen sword cultivators fervently hoped for and expected from the sword heart fruit. Unfortunately, sword heart fruits were rootless and driftless, rare in history, and few had ever obtained one. To think just by participating in a single sword Tao conference, one would receive such a prize. Besides, there was also the powerful sword Tao skill from the cave void realm, equally precious. Without a second thought, Lu Yi accepted the task. Going to the sword Tao conference was indeed a good idea. Listening to the powerful sword cultivators discuss swordsmanship might give him some insights, and could possibly help him elevate his sword Tao to a more powerful realm. Beyond that, Lu Yi actually had another task he wanted to accomplish. After all, his immortal sword scripture could only be practiced up to the nascent soul realm, and he was already in the golden core realm. In some time, he would be able to break through to the nascent soul realm. At that time, if he didn't have the subsequent cultivation technique, it would be a bit troublesome. Although Lu Yi's immortal sword seed floated outside his glazed golden core and hadn't replaced his spiritual energy source, theoretically speaking, it shouldn't be difficult for him to switch to another cultivation technique to practice. Yet the power of the immortal sword scripture was so great, Lu Yi had no immediate plans to switch, unless there was another immortal scripture available for exchange. If he went to the Sword Tao conference and met other Eastern Domain sword cultivators, he might also receive news about the immortal sword scripture. Thinking this, Lu Yi smiled and said, "In that case, thank you so much, Sister Ruyu." He reached out and took the Sword Tao order that Jian Ruyu handed over. "You should call me senior sister." Jian Ruyu pinched Lu Yi's face and laughed. Lu Yi, feeling helpless, said, "Senior sister Ruyu." At this moment, Liu Ningxuang spoke softly, "Ruyu, it's about time to leave." I haven't finished eating yet," Jian Ruyu said, startled, somewhat reluctantly. Liu Ningxuang looked at her and said, "The junior brother still needs to cultivate, you shouldn't disturb him." Upon hearing this, Jian Ruyu glanced at Lu Yi and then said reluctantly, "All right then." The two stood up and walked toward the exit of the cave mansion. Lu Yi then heard Liu Ningxuang's calm voice saying, "I will go to the Sword Tao conference with the junior brother when the time comes." Jian Ruyu's somewhat puzzled voice rang out, "You aren't a sword cultivator, why would you go there?" Liu Ningxuang's cool voice answered, "Just to take a walk." "All right then." As the two talked, their voices faded into the distance. Lu Yi tidied up his things and then looked at the Sword Tao order Jian Ruyu had given him, felt the incredibly fearsome sword intent within it, and his gaze flickered as he pondered. This sword intent was left by an unimaginably powerful sword cultivator. If he could comprehend this sword intent, might he improve? With this thought, Lu Yi felt excited and hurried back to his cultivation room. Lu Yi first processed the rewards from his recent sparring session with Jian Ruyu. Threads of sword intent integrated into Lu Yi's mind, gradually enhancing his own sword intent. This rate of improvement surprised Lu Yi. It might not be very rapid, but it was faster than when he had discussed swordsmanship with Elder Ming. Perhaps it was because Jian Ruyu's sword talent was stronger than Elder Ming's. After all, she was a sword Tao monster, who had enhanced her sword intent by 80% even while in the nascent soul realm, and was the prized genius of the divine sword sect of the Sword Tao sacred land. If this pace continued, perhaps sparring more with Jian Ruyu could elevate his sword intent to perfection. As for the sword intent grass, Lu Yi kept it for now, as he wasn't planning to use it himself, since it wasn't very useful to him anymore. Then Lu Yi took out some enlightenment tea leaves, brewed a cup of enlightenment tea, and began to comprehend the sword intent in the Sword Tao order. Chapter 182-107, A Finger Turns into a Peach Grove. Lu Yi's brow shimmered with golden liquid that boiled over, his spiritual power circulating, probing into the Sword Tao order, sensing the supreme sword intent. Clang! A clear, resounding hum of a sword rang out. Lu Yi sensed a streak of sword light flash by, a sword intent with unimaginable might, like the authority of the heavens, sweeping over. Lu Yi summoned his own sword intent to resist, locking in a stalemate with this sword intent. This sword intent was different from Lu Yi's. It was restrained in sharpness, pressing down regally without any killing intent. Lu Yi perceived the mysteries within this sword intent, feeling slightly astonished in his heart. Could this sword intent be purposely left behind by that astoundingly talented old master? Left for others to comprehend the sword intent. The Sword Tao order issued by the Sword Tao Conference was given to every talented sword cultivator, who could then contemplate the sword intent within. This was a gift from the old master to all the sword cultivators of the Eastern domain. Lu Yi couldn't help feeling some admiration and amazement toward that old master. This old master was magnanimous and righteous. Lu Yi focused his spirit, fully perceiving this grand sword intent, comparing and referencing it with his own sword Tao, and amending his own shortcomings. After drinking the enlightenment tea, Lu Yi's comprehension greatly enhanced within a day, and though not akin to a sudden enlightenment, it was still extremely powerful. At the same time, within the Danshan in Lu Yi's body, colors rolled like rosy clouds, the glazed golden core shimmering with rainbow light, Tao patterns faintly visible, and Tao sounds chanting, making it even more conducive for Lu Yi to align with the Tao and to comprehend it easily. Unknowingly, Lu Yi became immersed in this grand sword intent. What is sword intent? Every great sword Tao practitioner has their own understanding, and the most fundamental understanding is recognized by all. That is, sword intent being a conception, is the most evident expression of the Tao of heaven and earth. Only by mastering this conception can one begin to comprehend the domain and start to harness the heaven and earth for oneself. However, based on this foundation, everyone's understanding of sword intent varies. In his discussions on swordsmanship with Elder Ming, Lu Yi had his own comprehension of the sword Tao, and now within this vast sword intent, he gained new insights. The one who holds the sword also grips their own state of mind. Cultivating the sword is likewise cultivating the heart. My intent is sword intent, my heart is sword heart. Time passed unknowingly, the mist in Lu Yi's danshan gradually calmed, and the glazed golden core settled down as well. The sword Tao order in his hand ceased its display of grand sword light, and he subsequently opened his eyes. Lu Yi's black eyes were clear as springs, his spirit pristine. It was an embodiment of returning true. With perfect sword intent, every motion contained sword intent, easily controlled, achieving the true state of the sword follows my heart. Lu Yi had an epiphany. This was the necessary path for any contemplation of conception, a process of taking control. Only by truly mastering this conception can one advance further, taking control of the heaven and earth within one's vicinity. This, then, is the embryonic form of the domain. No wonder they say complete contemplation is the cornerstone of the domain. If one does not thoroughly comprehend the contemplation, naturally one cannot grasp the domain. Lu Yi suddenly understood, his anticipation for the domain growing even more. Unfortunately, even having achieved perfect sword intent, he still could not discern the path to the sword Tao domain. But Lu Yi wasn't worried at all now, he had plenty of time. Have mastered sword intent to the perfection realm at his golden core stage, Lu Yi was quite satisfied with himself. After all, he had never heard of any sword Tao practitioner from the ancient times achieving such a feat. After attaining perfect sword intent, Lu Yi set aside the sword Tao order and continued his cultivation. The ensuing days were peaceful for Lu Yi. For some reason, Wenjian Manor remained within the White Cloud sect, apparently discussing something with the sect. Jian Ruyu naturally stayed as well. Each day, Jian Ruyu and Liu Ningxuan would spar. Both were nascent soul realm geniuses, regarded as the top prodigies across the whole of Tiananmen, their powers earth-shattering. As they sparred outside the sect, Lu Yi would sometimes watch, always feeling many insights. Later, Lu Yi even brought Donggong Mingyue along to watch the two prodigies sparring. This made Donggong Mingyue start to shut himself off. Both Liu Ningxuan and Jian Ruyu had the utmost talent, and Donggong Mingyue, initially proud of his rapid progress in cultivation and even becoming a bit cocky, suddenly felt like he was nothing but trash. Sister is so strong, Sister Ruyu is strong too, I must work even harder. Donggong Mingyue wore a determined face, making Lu Yi deeply gratified. That's right, cultivate well and Big Brother will make you some delicious food. If this guy didn't strive hard, how could he advance to the Golden Core realm, and how could he gain more rewards? One day, while Lu Yi was cultivating, suddenly the voice of Yunzai came from outside. Brother Lu Yi, Yunzai is visiting, please come out. Lu Yi opened his eyes, somewhat surprised. Why has Yunzai come? He left the cave mansion, opened the door and stepped out, only to see Yunzai in a purple dress standing outside, her beautiful face delicate, her skin like jade reflecting a soft glow. Lu Yi said with a light laugh, "Yunzai, what brings you here?" Yunzai smiled and said, "Grandma also came. She mentioned that Wenjian Manor plans to form an alliance with our three sects on some important matter. I missed you, so I pleaded with Grandma to bring me along." Looking at Yunzai's smile, Lu Yi's mouth twitched. This was the first time he had ever heard a female cultivator say she missed him. But then again, only Yunzai would say something like this, as her approach had always been like this. Lu Yi smiled and said, "Indeed, it's been a long time since we last met. Come in, let's have a good catch-up." Chapter 183, 107, Transforming a Peach Forest with One Finger Too. He was also very happy in his heart, as he could spar with Yunzai again. However, his heart was also a bit shaken. No wonder senior sister, Ruyu and the others had not left recently. Could it be that Wenjian Manor was already planning to join the alliance of the three sects? Indeed, it was good news. In recent days, Lu Yi had heard that the battles between the seven sects were intense, causing turmoil throughout Qingzhou, with many small sects unfortunately caught in the crossfire. The disciples of the three sects had been at a disadvantage in front of the combined forces of the four sects of the Blood Spirit sect. Now with Wenjian Manor joining, it was a strong reinforcement for the White Cloud sect and the three sects. However, the seven top sects had been non-committal, and now that Wenjian Manor had made a choice, it broke the deadlock, and the situation in Qingzhou might become even more chaotic. Lu Yi couldn't help but feel a sense of exclamation in his heart. He shook his head. After all, he was just an ordinary golden core cultivator, and even if his combat strength was slightly stronger, he could not change the overall situation, so he might as well continue cultivating steadily. It hadn't been long since the 10,000 Flowers sect practitioner arrived, and the sect leader of Cold Winter Valley also came, bringing Han Yu with him. For Lu Yi, it was naturally a good thing. Whenever he had time, he would spar with Yunzai and Han Yu, acquiring Centennial Spirit Marrow to enhance his natural realm and Heart of Ice. Now that Lu Yi's sword intent was perfect, it was probably difficult to enhance in a short time, so what he could do now was to enhance other conceptions first. Unfortunately, because of the chaotic battle among the seven sects, senior brother Jiang Fan was leading senior brother Tai Man and senior brother Bai Yulong adventuring outside every day, and they rarely returned to the sect. Otherwise, he could also enhance his water intent realm. It must be said that senior brother Jiang Fan truly had a decent amount of fortune as a cultivator of the Fan generation. Amid such chaos, he impressively made a significant name for himself along with Tai Man and Bai Yulong. Lu Yi, running errands in the workshop for his master, often heard some brothers and sisters discussing the external war situation, occasionally hearing news of these three senior brothers. During this time, senior brother Jiang Fan's cultivation had actually advanced to the 9th layer of the Foundation Establishment realm. Even senior brothers Tai Man and Bai Yulong had advanced to the 8th layer of the Foundation Establishment. They must have encountered some fortunate opportunities to have their strength significantly enhanced. The three of them were quite famous among the Foundation Establishment cultivators of the three sects. Together, they had killed several cultivators at the peak of Foundation Establishment. Moreover, the small bottle obtained by senior brother Jiang Fan was of extraordinary power. It once helped him along with Tai Man and Bai Yulong to escape from a golden core cultivator of the Blood Spirit sect. The three of them fought and fled, becoming stronger and stronger on the way. Lu Yi even began to wonder if senior brother Jiang Fan was born a warmonger, continually growing stronger through battle. However, the three were Lu Yi's friends, and he was very happy to see them advancing so quickly in their strength. He just hoped they wouldn't die recklessly. Next time when senior brother Jiang Fan and the others returned, he could give them some higher-grade magic artifacts. Lately, Lu Yi had been taking trials in the trial tower, and through tasks, he had acquired more magic artifacts. Especially after passing every 10 layers, the rewards were enhanced, and now he had acquired quite a few high-grade magical artifacts, and even some had reached top-grade magical artifacts. Unfortunately, he himself used an artifact, so he couldn't use these magic artifacts, but he could give them to others. The sect leaders of 10,000 Flowers sect, Cold Winter Valley, and Wenjian Manor stayed at the White Cloud sect for over a month, and Lu Yi was very happy. In that month, Lu Yi sparred daily with Yunzai and Han Yu, acquiring over 4,000 drops of centennial spirit marrow. He had almost used up 1,000 drops of the centennial spirit marrow he originally cultivated with, and now he had finally been replenished, sufficient for him to cultivate to the peak of the golden core, and might even allow him to break through 1 or 2 layers of the heavenly Tao limitation. Both his heart of ice and natural realm had greatly improved, reaching about 50% each, much stronger than before, and were nearly comparable to his water intent realm now. The only thing that gave Lu Yi a bit of a headache was that every time Yunzai came over, Donggong Mingyue would act like a cat with its fur standing on end, and the two of them would quarrel whenever they met. It was just that Yunzai and Donggong Mingyue had a large gap in strength, otherwise they would definitely end up fighting every day. More than a month later, the sect leaders of the 3 sects left, taking their prodigies with them. Even Giant Ruyu followed them in leaving. Junior brother, don't forget the Sword Tao Conference. Senior sister is about to return to the Divine Sword Sect. See you at the Sword Tao Conference. Before leaving, Giant Ruyu specifically reminded Lu Yi, afraid he would forget. Lu Yi naturally wouldn't forget. It was related to whether his Sword Tao cultivation could quickly reach the Sword Tao domain realm, and it also concerned whether he needed to switch his cultivation technique. With the departure of the 3 sects, several of Lu Yi's friends also left, giving him peaceful time to continue his serene cultivation life. Time passed swiftly, and 3 years had gone by in a blink. During these 3 years, Lu Yi's cultivation had grown significantly, reaching the 8th layer of the Golden Core realm, which was a bit slower compared to increase during the Foundation Establishment realm. However, the Golden Core and Foundation Establishment were different after all. Most Golden Core cultivators, even over 40 or 50 years, might not be able to advance even one minor realm. Lu Yi had only taken 4 years to progress from the 1st layer to the 8th layer, which was already an astonishing achievement. One day, Lu Yi left his cave mansion to go outside Liu Ningxuang's cave mansion. His clear voice rang out, "Senior sister, I have arrived." Soon, the door of Liu Ningxuang's cave mansion opened, and she emerged in a white dress, cool and clear as the moon. Lu Yi chuckled lightly. With only 2 months until the Sword Tao Conference, we should set off. Chapter 184-107. One finger turns into a peach grove 3. Liu Ningxuang nodded slightly and chuckled. Yes, I'm ready. We can leave at any time. Then let's go find Elder Ming. No need, I'm here. Elder Ming appeared silently on a branch not far from the cave mansion, hands clasped behind his back, floating ethereally like an immortal. Since everyone is ready, let's set off. I too had attended the Divine Sword Sect's Sword Tao Conference. It's been thousands of years since then, Elder Ming reminisced, stepping forward to join Lu Yi and the other person. Lu Yi hesitated, then spoke. Elder Ming, with the war at its height in the sect, as a strong practitioner of the cave void realm, wouldn't your departure impact the White Cloud sect? Although Elder Ming said he wanted to protect the way for Lu Yi and he intended to accompany him on a long journey, given the current situation, Lu Yi was still worried about the sect. Even if Elder Ming did not accompany him, he now had many means at his disposal and would not be in any danger. Elder Ming chuckled lightly and said indifferently, "Not at all, our White Cloud sect still has its trump cards, and besides, the war is stable now. No significant changes will occur." Seeing Elder Ming say this, Lu Yi naturally nodded without further comment. Let's set off. The 3 of them transformed into streaks of light and flew out of the sect. They didn't use a flying treasure, keeping a low profile to avoid attracting attention. After all, with the intense ongoing war, there were certainly scouts from the Blood Spirit sect among the 4 sects watching the White Cloud sect, and it was even possible there were traitors within. As an immortal seed, if Lu Yi drew attention, he might provoke the 4 sects' powerhouses to ambush him. The trio were swift, turning into a rainbow light, and soon flew beyond the mountain range of the White Cloud sect. After a while, Lu Yi suddenly found the scenery in front of him somewhat familiar. Soon he realized where he had arrived. Lu Yi had come here before with Jiang Fan and Bai Yulong on a task. This place was within the territory of Mo country. Looking afar, Lu Yi saw many mortals in tattered clothes, struggling to move forward. Farther away, he saw the capital of Mo country. The once bustling capital was now much desolate, and one side of the once sturdy walls had collapsed, while the other 3 sides also bore many signs of damage. Lu Yi frowned and asked with some confusion, "What happened here?" Liu Ningxuang glanced and spoke softly. Some time ago, heavenly snake sect scouts were discovered near our sect by our powerful cultivators. They were chased here, and a large battle ensued, affecting Mo country's capital in the aftermath. Hearing that, Lu Yi fell silent. Elder Ming's expression remained calm. Having lived nearly 10,000 years and seen many dynasties change, even having experienced several major wars in the cultivation world, he had long seen through everything. He looked at those impoverished mortals and said, "When cultivators battle, countless cultivators perish, but the mortal world cannot remain unscathed. Within the territories of all the great sects there are numerous dynasties. As territories shift, dynasties will also attack nearby rival states, and internal chaos may even arise. In such times, humanity is like chaff, with bones scattered everywhere." Lu Yi felt a mix of emotions and sighed lightly. When immortals clash, the mortals suffer. With a casual gesture, the flow of natural Tao transformed. In the barren desert, new sprouts suddenly appeared, quickly growing into large trees. These were peach trees, laden with ripe peaches. The struggling refugees, seeing this, were stunned. After a moment of panic, they looked up at the sky, saw Lu Yi and the others, and quickly knelt down to express their gratitude, shouting continuously, "Thank you, Immortal Lord. Thank you, Immortal Master." Lu Yi whispered, "Let's go eat something." Currently, everywhere was in chaos, and all he could do was help those he came across, within his limited power. A group of refugees hurriedly rushed toward the peach forest. Elder Ming and Liu Ningxuang were both startled when they saw Lu Yi conjure a peach forest with a single gesture. Elder Ming exclaimed in astonishment, "Is this the natural Tao? Kiddo Lu, have you perceived the natural realm?" Beside them, Liu Ningxuang, with surprise on her cold, beautiful face, asked, "Junior brother Lu, when did you comprehend the natural realm?" Lu Yi smiled awkwardly. "Yunzai has the 10,000 flowers spirit body, deeply understands the natural Tao, and through exchanging insights with her, I somehow grasped the natural realm unconsciously." Elder Ming and Liu Ningxuang were left speechless. After a moment of silence, Elder Ming said indifferently, "Kid, you truly are a monster." Light gleamed in Liu Ningxuang's cool eyes as she softly sighed. "Junior brother Lu really has the demeanor of an immortal." Lu Yi smiled helplessly. "Let's hurry on." The two nodded, and then the three of them continued to transform into streaks of light, making their way into the distance. Along the way, Lu Yi witnessed much suffering. Skeletons lay uncollected by the roadside, among many other hardships. In the great war of the cultivation world, mortals were living miserably. Lu Yi was moved, but lacked the power to quell the chaos in Qingzhou, and could only help as much as he was able. Soon, they had crossed the territory of the White Cloud sect and reached the area of the 10,000 Flowers sect. The trio did not notify the practitioners of the 10,000 Flowers sect, moving covertly and rarely entering cities to avoid attracting the attention of the powerful from the Blood Spirit sect and the four sects. After a few more days, they crossed the territory of the 10,000 Flowers sect, and the expressions of the three hardened. Elder Ming began, "From here on, we enter the territory of the Heavenly Snake sect. We should be careful to avoid being detected by their practitioners." Lu Yi and Liu Ningxuang both nodded. Although the Heavenly Snake sect did not have a cave void cultivator, their alliance did, and being discovered still posed a danger. The trio became even more cautious, traveling through deserted wild mountains. 2 days later, Lu Yi and the others rested by a mountain stream. Lu Yi was roasting meat, which was golden brown and dripping with fat, emitting a rich aroma. Elder Ming couldn't help but swallow his saliva, and taking a sip of jade wine, exclaimed with relish, "Kiddo Lu, your culinary skills are getting better and better. I'm afraid that in a few more days, even Yulan won't match you." Lu Yi chuckled, "Elder Ming, you flatter me. Yulan Peak Master's spirit food cooking skill and spirit wine brewing skill have already reached the transformation stage. I'm still far from that." Truth be told, even handling nascent soul realm spirit food was somewhat difficult for Lu Yi, let alone divinity transformation realm spirit food, even with a recipe in hand. Elder Ming chuckled, "It's rare that people get to taste your culinary skills. If Yulan knew about your talent, Ling Luo Peak would be turned upside down by her." Lu Yi smiled helplessly, "Elder Ming, you're exaggerating." Liu Ningxuang sipped her wine and remained silent. Just then a long laugh rang out. "Elder Ming, coming onto our turf, how come you didn't give us a heads up?" Suddenly, an immensely terrifying aura emerged, and under the pressure of the spiritual force, the surrounding mountains fell deadly silent. Even the chirping of insects ceased. Chapter 185, 108. Unprecedented generous task rewards Happy National Day tilde. Hearing the sound, the expressions of Lu Yi and the two others slightly changed as they stood up. Elder Ming's brows furrowed as he looked toward a mountain peak where, unbeknownst when, an old man was standing. Dark spirit light flickered around the old man, and the terrifying spiritual pressure distorted the space. In other areas, several deep abyss-like auras emerged. Elder Ming looked at the old man, and a strong sword intent emerged around him. He coldly said, "You Ying Elder, have you recovered from that last sword strike, yet you dare appear before me?" The old man chuckled and spirit light flowed around him. "Elder Ming, your strength is indeed formidable. Your sword intent reaches the heavens. We cannot detain you, but you are not our target." Lu Yi felt that several experts had their aura locked on him, making him involuntarily frown. These fellows, indeed they were coming for him. Liu Ningxuang's pretty face was cold as she spoke. "It's unexpected that despite our cautiousness, we were still discovered. Junior brother, follow me when the time comes." Lu Yi nodded slightly. Elder Ming swept his gaze around and scoffed mockingly. 1 cave void, 3 divinity transformations, and 13 nascent souls, all for 1 golden core youngster. You really went a great lengths. Yu Ying was completely unconcerned with Elder Ming's mockery and nonchalantly said, "This golden core youngster is not ordinary. His breakthrough attracted a 12-mile heavenly tribulation, giving us too much pressure. If we weren't afraid of letting you escape, we would have assembled even more hands, but this should be barely enough now, right?" Elder Ming's surrounding sword intent grew more fierce, and he indifferently said, "You really have no shame. He, for the sake of exterminating your white cloud sect's immortal seed, what is a lost face to us?" Yu Ying's aura surged along with Elder Ming's, and both were ready to fight at any moment. At that moment, Elder Ming sent a message telepathically. "I'll hold Yu Ying and the 3 divinity transformers. You 2 leave first. After exiting Qinju, meet in Qinju Tianlu City." Upon hearing this, both Lu Yi and Liu Ningxuang responded. Immediately afterward, the sound of a clear sword chiming erupted, and a cold silver light emerged around Elder Ming. The incredibly sharp sword intent shot up into the sky, swirling like a reversed galaxy, splitting into 4 directions. The thickest beam of sword light shot toward Yu Ying. The other 3 beams targeted the 3 divinity transformation experts. Yu Ying shouted lowly, "Kill, spare no expense, kill Lu Yi." He took a step forward. His body left a residual shadow where he stood as he soared into the sky, surrounded by an inky twilight that transformed into a large pair of hands, blocking the sword intent. The other 3 divinity transformation cultivators angrily shouted, activating their cultivation treasures. The cultivation treasure's spirit light flickered, vibrating the space to meet the sword light. The moment Elder Ming made his move, Lu Yi and Liu Ningxuang vanished from their original spot, transforming into a rainbow light, flying toward a direction far from Qingju. "Stop them!" the group of nascent soul experts shouted angrily, rushing toward Lu Yi and Liu Ningxuang. Liu Ningxuang's pretty face remained cold. Frost emanated all around her, and a long sword appeared in her hand. Frost gathered around her body into streams of light, shooting toward the nascent soul cultivators. The terrifying frost force caused the nascent soul cultivators' bodies to chill, their skin painfully tingling as they resisted with all their might. The 2 nascent soul cultivators blocking Lu Yi and Liu Ningxuang had fierce expressions. They unleashed 2 cultivation treasures. One was a green bead emitting strands of green smoke, corroding everything around, even making the air hiss. The other was a dark red flag saturated with thick blood energy. The flag fluttered in the air, sending streaks of blood light striking toward Lu Yi and Liu Ningxuang. Liu Ningxuang hummed softly, a hint of frost flashing in her eyes. Her jade hands formed seals, and snow began to fall from the sky. The extreme cold blanketed the world. Snowflakes touched the green smoke and bloodlight, which then froze, fell as frost to the ground. The 2 nascent soul cultivators' faces showed shock, and they both involuntarily took a step back. Be careful, this woman is a top 5 contender on the Young Talents ranking of the Eastern Domain, extremely powerful." Liu Ningxuang, like an ice and snow immortal, moved swiftly. Her icy face and continuously changing hand seals brought the next moment a howling cold wind, the blizzard intensifying. Within the heavy snow, The cold wind and frost formed a pair of giant hands that covered the sky and struck the two nascent soul cultivators. The two nascent soul cultivators roared repeatedly in resistance, but were still no match and were slapped flying. Their spirit lights dim, half their bodies frozen into ice, bones shattered and tendons snapped. Two high-ranking nascent soul cultivators could not withstand one strike from Liu Ningxuang. "Junior brother, let's go." Liu Ningxuang's face was calm as she led Lu Yi out of the encirclement and charged toward the distance. Behind them, terrible spiritual energy surged, and thunderous noises echoed through heaven and earth. The creek where they had been barbecuing just before was instantly steamed dry. The underwater rocks turned to dust. It was like a massive earthquake. That was the commotion of a cave void cultivator's confrontation. Even as Lu, you felt a chill throughout his body. The mere aftershocks were so terrifyingly powerful, one could hardly imagine what it was like at the center of the confrontation. But this was now beyond what he could manage. Having broken free from the encirclement, they flew toward the distant horizon. Behind them, a series of powerful auras followed, belonging to the nascent soul cultivators pursuing them. Chapter 186, 108, Unparalleled Generous Task Rewards Happy National Day 2. Lu Yi was enveloped in immortal sword qi, as if he had transformed into a long sword, his speed extremely fast. The flee arts he was using were no longer the Thunder Shadow Step he used before. After all, Thunder Shadow Step was merely a skill of the Foundation Establishment realm, which could no longer keep up with Lu Yi's pace. The technique that Lu Yi was now practicing was called Sword Origin Escape, a swordsmanship escaping technique of the nascent soul realm, which he had found in the book storage pavilion. After all, now that he was in the book storage pavilion, he could casually read even the sect-suppressing skills, let alone find a few techniques. Right when he broke through to the Golden Core realm, he had already learned the Sword Origin Escape, and at this moment, his skill level had reached LV9. If it were a common nascent soul skill, even with Lu Yi's incredible talent, it would have been difficult to reach this level within 4 years, but Lu Yi himself possessed an extremely powerful sword intent, which made the practice twice as successful with half the effort. Just 4 years, and he had cultivated such a powerful nascent soul skill to such a level. However, Lu Yi did not need to use LV9 level Sword Origin Escape. Even by just using skills from the returning True Realm, he maintained a certain speed and was not caught by the nascent soul cultivators behind him. Liu Ningxuang was surrounded by cold energy, as if propelled forward by frost, and her speed was clearly not limited to this, but she maintained it to match Lu Yi's pace. Seeing Lu Yi's speed, Liu Ningxuang's eyes flashed with a hint of surprise, and then she smiled lightly. "Junior brother's speed is really fast. I originally thought of carrying you to fly together, but now it seems there is no need." Lu Yi was startled when he heard this, then he seriously said, "Senior sister, my current speed is already at the limit, and even like this, it's not certain that we can shake off the pursuers behind us. How about senior sister carries me to fly? We should leave quickly, it will be safer that way." Hearing this, Liu Ningxuang pondered for a moment and then nodded slightly. "If that's the case, then all right." Liu Ningxuang waved her hand lightly, and the next moment, a gust of cold wind wrapped around Lu Yi, causing a chill through his body. "It's a bit cold." Then Liu Ningxuang flew carrying Lu Yi. Lu Yi's face turned a bit pale with the cold, as he originally thought that carrying him in flight meant holding on to him or something similar to fly, just like this. Lu Yi regretted it a little, it's kind of cold. However, he didn't say much more and turned his head to look behind him, seeing that one nascent soul cultivator after another was getting farther away. As a top talent among nascent soul cultivators, Liu Ningxuang naturally could not be compared to the ordinary nascent soul cultivators. Behind those nascent soul cultivators, terrifyingly brilliant spirit light was flickering. He saw the originally clear sky turn into a dark night, the silence of the night seemingly containing endless murderous intent. He also witnessed a silver sword qi of indeterminate length soaring into the sky, cutting through the night, extinguishing the darkness and bringing back sunlight. He saw a massive black hand that covered mountains and rivers slam down fiercely, shaking the earth, turning mountains into basins, and the ground was full of cracks. Even from a great distance, Lu Yi could still feel the ground shaking violently underneath him. He also witnessed silver brilliance illuminating the heavens and the earth, where everything in its path crumbled to dust and returned to its most primitive state. The battle of the cave void cultivators was earth-shattering, far more terrifying than a nuclear bomb. Just then, a terrible roar came from that direction, with black and silver light flashing simultaneously in the distance, mixed with other glows. Then an extremely powerful aura burst forth, quickly approaching them. That was the aura of a divinity transformation cultivator. Feeling this overwhelming aura, Liu Ningxuang's calm face revealed a slight change, and she frowned. A divinity transformation cultivator is catching up. Lu Yi also frowned. Yes, I'm afraid Elder Ming couldn't stop him and let him escape. Let's go. Liu Ningxuang, without a second thought, surged her spiritual power, further increasing her speed, leaving the nascent soul cultivators further and further behind. However, even so, Liu Ningxuang was still unable to shake off that divinity transformation cultivator, who was extremely fast, constantly trailing behind the two of them, slowly closing in. Liu Ningxuang frowned slightly and said, "This can't go on like this, we will be caught up with." On saying this, Liu Ningxuang thought for a moment and then said, "Junior brother, I'll hold off that divinity transformation cultivator for a while, you go ahead first." Lu Yi was startled and looked at Liu Ningxuang. How can this be? Although senior sister is strong, you may not be able to match a divinity transformation cultivator. Liu Ningxuang smiled lightly. Even if I am not a match, I can leave, and he won't be able to stop me. Hearing this, Lu Yi looked at Liu Ningxuang in surprise and fell silent for a moment before saying, "Senior sister, can you really fight a divinity transformation cultivator?" To hold off for a moment, no problem. Lu Yi, his eyes shining, murmured to himself, "I want to kill the pursuers behind us." Task: kill the pursuers behind. Reward: 100 drops of 1,000-year-old spirit marrow, low-grade spiritual artifact soul calming pearl, 10 drops of true dragon blood. Accept yes no. When Lu Yi saw the rewards, his breathing quickened for a moment and his eyes widened. A spiritual artifact. He would be rewarded with a spiritual artifact. It's known that for ordinary mortal cultivators, a spiritual artifact is the most powerful cultivation treasure one can possess, with the next step being an immortal artifact. Generally speaking, even cave void cultivators would not possess a spiritual artifact. Even those in the unification realm seldom have them. This goes to show how precious a spiritual artifact is. Besides, there were also 10 drops of true dragon blood. Lu Yi had previously obtained a drop of true dragon blood, which had greatly improved him. Now there were actually a full 10 drops. In comparison, the 100 drops of 1,000-year-old spirit marrow seemed the least impressive reward. Lu Yi was overjoyed, as the task rewards were almost too generous. Chapter 187, 108. Unparalleled Generous Task Rewards Happy National Day 3. However, Lu Yi then thought that there were, after all, 13 nascent soul cultivators and 1 divinity transformation cultivator behind them. Killing them was the only way to complete the task, so it was only natural that the reward was substantial. Lu Yi accepted the task without a second word. Done. Liu Ningxuang saw the change in Lu Yi's expression and slightly frowned. "Junior brother, what's wrong?" Lu Yi came back to his senses and smiled. "Senior sister, we can kill them." Hearing this, Liu Ningxuang was taken aback and looked at Lu Yi, her clear and cold face filled with astonishment. "Kill them?" Lu Yi nodded slightly. "Yes, together we can kill them all." Liu Ningxuang frowned, her expression hard to remain calm. "Junior brother, are you serious? Do you know how powerful a divinity transformation cultivator is?" Lu Yi nodded. "I am confident, even if we can't kill them, we can still escape." As he spoke, Lu Yi thought of something. He looked at Liu Ningxuang and smiled. "Senior sister, I have a gift for you." Liu Ningxuang's thoughts were still on killing the divinity transformation cultivator. Hearing this, she instinctively asked, "What gift?" Lu Yi smiled and took out a long sword that was emitting a chilling cold air. This was the reward Lu Yi had received for his previous breakthrough to the Golden Core realm, the high-grade treasure, Cold Glass Sword. For Lu Yi, he already had enough treasures. He had the Profound Sun Sword for attacking and the Red Flame Purple Copper Furnace, which were sufficient for his use, and this high-grade treasure could greatly enhance the power of ice-based techniques. It had far greater utility in the hands of his senior sister than in his own. Senior sister was willing to stay behind to fend off the divinity transformation cultivator to let him escape, which was also taking quite a risk. Since senior sister was so supportive of him, he naturally would not be stingy. This cold glass sword, Lu Yi planned to give to her. In fact, Li also harbored a small hope. That was, he still had a task to make his senior sister fall in love with him. The task with the junior sister was like a glitch, never able to be completed. Lu Yi could only think about resolving things with his senior sister first. What if the task with his senior sister was completed? The moment Lu Yi took out the cold glass sword, Liu Ningxuang was immediately drawn to it. As someone with an innate ice spirit body, she naturally knew very well how compatible this magic artifact was with her. Her pretty face showed a trace of astonishment. Such a powerful force of frost, this cultivation treasure. Is it a high-grade treasure? Lu Yi smiled and nodded. Yes, this is the high-grade treasure, cold glass sword. The junior brother obtained it by chance previously and it's most suited for you, senior sister. Liu Ningxuang's calm eyes were like disturbed lake water, slightly rippling. She raised her head to look at Lu Yi, her eyes complex. Junior brother, do you know how precious a high-grade treasure is? Even a divinity transformation cultivator would be willing to trade all they have for it. And you want to give it to me? Lu Yi chuckled lightly and nodded slightly. Yes, although the cultivation treasure is precious, it cannot compare to the place senior sister holds in junior brother's heart. In junior brother's view, all the possessions of a divinity transformation cultivator are not as important as senior sister's happiness. Liu Ningxuang's breath fluctuated slightly, and she averted her gaze, her voice steady as she spoke. Junior brother, when did you learn to speak such sweet nothings? Lu Yi's mouth twitched slightly, and he began to doubt his life. Was his remark somehow incorrect? He had specifically gone to buy Yulong and other brothers skilled in mingling with female cultivators a few days ago to discuss this issue, but it turned out to be an unfavorable start. Lu Yi forced a dry laugh and said, Junior brother speaks sincerely, this cold glass sword I indeed plan to give to you. Liu Ningxuang remained silent for a moment, then smiled lightly. Since that's the case, then senior sister shall accept it. She reached out to Lu Yi, who placed the sword handle in her hand. His fingers also touched Liu Ningxuang's ice-gold, jade-like hands, much like her temperament. Liu Ningxuang gripped the sword, turned her back to Lu Yi, and faced the divinity transformation cultivators catching up from behind. Her cool voice rose. Since junior brother is confident, then senior sister will join you in killing them. As she spoke, cold air swirled around Liu Ningxuang, with crystals of snow flying around her, sparkling, her aura much stronger than before, wasn't it? Merely holding the cold glass sword, Liu Ningxuang's aura had grown so much stronger. This made Lu Yi inwardly exclaim, it truly was a high-grade treasure. Lu Yi laughed heartily. Good, today we as brother and sister shall cause a great uproar together. As he spoke, Lu Yi also drew the profound sun sword, standing alongside Liu Ningxuang, facing the multitude of cultivators chasing after them. The first to catch up was naturally that divinity transformation cultivator. He was an old man in a blood-colored robe, his body thin and skeletal, with sparse hair. He emitted a strong, nauseating scent of blood, and his aura fluctuated, seeming somewhat weak. In order to break through Elder Ming's blockade, even though Yu Ying, a cave void cultivator, and 2 other divinity transformation cultivators cleared the way for him, he had still paid a significant price. Seeing that Lu Yi and Liu Ningxuang had actually stopped, he grinned, revealing a sinister smile, his voice hoarse. Run! Why aren't you running now? No matter how you run, you are destined to die today. Liu Ningxuang, holding the cold glass sword, pointed it directly at the blood-robed old man. Her cool voice rang out. The one to die may not be us. The blood-robed elder, upon seeing the terrifying chill released from the cold glass sword, his pupils slightly contracted, then his eyes gleamed with ecstasy. This cultivation treasure. Is it a high-grade treasure? Ha ha ha, heaven aids me too. Today should be a great opportunity for Zhu Yu. Then he turned his head, spotted the profound sun sword in Lu Yi's hand, his eyes twinkling, and a mid-grade treasure. Good, good, youngsters, this old man really should thank you. His body surged with spiritual energy, and a blood light emerged, like a blood tide, stirring up waves. The next moment, Zhu Yu reached out towards Lu Yi and Liu Ningxuang. A gigantic blood-colored palm materialized, reaching towards them. This was one of the blood spirit sect's ultimate techniques, heavenly blood hand, which when cultivated deeply enough could block space, much like a heavenly net, trapping any cultivator within it, preventing their escape. Just then streaks of cold wind passed, and the heavenly blood hand suddenly stiffened in midair. The next moment, it shattered into pieces of blood-colored ice, falling to the ground. Huh? Zhu Yu looked at Liu Ningxuang with a shocked expression, his eyes filled with intense killing intent. I've long heard that Liu Ningxuang of the White Cloud sect was an exceptional prodigy, truly remarkable. If allowed to grow, you could become as big a problem as Ling Luo Peak Master. I'll kill you today too. Liu Ningxuang did not speak. She stepped forward, disappearing from the spot. The next moment, the endless ice sword materialized above Zhu Yu's head, slashing down on him like a torrential downpour. Zhu Yu erupted in anger. His spiritual energy surged, standing together with Liu Ningxuang. Lu Yi did not step forward. Instead, he turned his head towards the road they had come from. 13 rays of rainbow light rapidly approached, a fearsome aura of the nascent soul realm surging, causing a gale with their wave. Lu Yi grinned, his eyes filled with icy coldness. With the divinity transformation cultivator temporarily occupied by senior sister, he'd kill these few fellows first. They post now, edit later tilde. Chapter 188, 109 Young Immortal King. The speed of the nascent soul cultivators was very fast, taking only a few breaths to travel from the horizon to a place not far from Lu Yi. A group of nascent soul cultivators stopped and glanced at Liu Ningxuang and Zhu Yu, who were fighting, then turned their heads towards Lu Yi. You didn't take the chance to escape, truly ignorant of life and death, a muscular, brawny man sneered. The other nascent soul cultivators slowly moved to consciously encircle Lu Yi, not letting him escape. Another woman, beautiful and glamorous, also sneered coldly, staring at Lu Yi. What a pity you chose the wrong sect, otherwise, with your talent, you could have been a real character. Lu Yi's expression remained calm, and he chuckled lightly. Senior, you don't think you've already secured my defeat, do you? At Lu Yi's words, everyone was startled, then burst into laughter. Ha ha ha, what? You don't think you can escape from our hands, do you? This is too amusing. Perhaps you are a peerless genius. If we were short-handed, you might actually have escaped, but unfortunately there are 13 of us. Even with your exceptional talent, you are still in the golden core realm, facing 13 nascent soul cultivators, and you still think about escaping. They sneered, their bodies circulating with spiritual energy, locking their energies onto Lu Yi, not giving him any chance. The moment Lu Yi made any strange movement, he would face their thunderous assault. Lu Yi chuckled lightly. Seniors have misunderstood. I never thought about running. What I meant was, I'm going to kill you all. As he spoke, Lu Yi's handheld profound sun sword began shining with intense, hot light, radiating heat waves in all directions, along with soaring sword intent. He took a step forward and slashed his sword at a nascent soul cultivator in front of him. Clang! The immortal sword Qi contained an incredibly strong sword intent, like a bone-piercing cold wind, sweeping past all the nascent soul cultivators. The profound sun sword slashed, entwined with terrifying thunder, and also with high heat sufficient to vaporize metal, creating 100 meters long red sword light that streaked across the sky. The sword light illuminated the faces of all the nascent soul cultivators, their smiles stiffened, and their bodies cold. Especially the nascent soul cultivator, who was locked by the sword Qi. He was an ordinarily built, mundane-looking middle-aged man with black hair, and his cultivation had reached the nascent soul's 6th layer. His face drastically changed, he roared, and a pitch-black shield appeared in his hand. The shield enlarged to cover an area of more than 10 square meters, with dark metallic gleam flickering on it. The sword Qi crashed into the shield. Boom! With a roar, the shield was instantly split in half. The unstoppable sword Qi continued towards the middle-aged man. He bellowed, the spiritual energy circulating, retreating constantly, casting powerful attacks landing heavily on the sword Qi, yet they could not stop the sword Qi either. The sword Qi instantly engulfed the middle-aged man, who didn't even have the chance to scream before he was turned into a charred mass. As the sword light swept across, the charred debris crumbled into ash, disappearing into the air. All the nascent soul cultivators felt a chill run down their spine, standing amidst the heat wave, yet feeling utterly cold. They hastily scattered, staring at Lu Yi with horror on their faces. What kind of sword intent is this? How can it be so powerful? I think he just killed Lin Yi with a single slash. Lin Yi is not a weakling. Wait, look at the long sword in his hand. An old man with gray-white hair widened his eyes, staring intently at the profound sun sword in Lu Yi's hand. At this remark, others noticed Lu Yi's profound sun sword as well. Suddenly, everyone gasped, a look of greed appearing in their eyes. A mid-grade treasure, It's actually a mid-grade treasure. No wonder this young man's sword chi is so strong. He holds a mid-grade treasure in his hand. Seeing the many nascent soul cultivators' greed, Lu Yi just smiled and raised the long sword in his hand. If you have the ability, come and take it. Hearing this, the many nascent soul cultivators exchanged glances. Then an old crone at the peak of nascent soul shouted, "Kill!" Her body circulated with spiritual energy, spitting out a blood-colored whip that swept across the peak of a mountain, silently dissolving it into dust. Seeing this, other cultivators also employed their own methods, launching attacks towards Lu Yi. One person controlled a sword as swift as light, slashing towards Lu Yi. Another summoned a huge furnace aiming to envelop Lu Yi. Yet another formed hand seals, gathering an incredibly terrifying storm, and so on. As nascent soul cultivators, none were weaklings, nor were any truly foolish. If their talent was insufficient, they simply could not cultivate to the nascent soul realm. Their arts were all very powerful, each attack capable of easily destroying a mountain or a village. In the midst of these attacks, Lu Yi felt the terrifying surge of spiritual energy, but his expression remained unchanged. The next moment, Lu Yi's body turned into sword light, executing sword origin escape, and instantly disappeared from the spot. He appeared behind the weakest nascent soul, third layer cultivator. She was a curvaceous, pretty woman with long black hair, dressed in a green robe. Lu Yi slashed with his profound sun sword. Terrifying sword chi once again gathered instantly, engulfing the black-haired woman before she could even react. This black-haired woman's cultivation was not even as strong as the previously defeated Lin Yi in the nascent soul 6th layer. She turned into ash and completely dispersed as she was engulfed. Wang Qin, a middle-aged man of the nascent soul 8th layer nearby, changed his expression drastically, roaring angrily as he glared at Lu Yi. He belted out attack after attack with his cultivation treasures, targeting Lu Yi. However, these treasures hadn't reached Lu Yi before he once again disappeared from the spot, appearing behind a nascent soul 5th layer cultivator, swallowing him with a single slash. Chapter 189, 109 Young Immortal King 2. The cultivators' faces changed repeatedly. Everything had happened too quickly, and they could hardly react. The beautiful woman at the nascent soul peak shouted, "This little beast is extremely fast. Gather together, do not give him a chance." Hearing this, the remaining 9 nascent soul cultivators gathered together, warily watching Lu Yi. 9 nascent soul cultivators being so cautious around a golden core cultivator would hardly be believed by other cultivators if spoken aloud. Seeing this, Lu Yi couldn't help but laugh silently, holding the profound sun sword in front of them, and chuckled, "Aren't you here to hunt me down? Is that all? How are you going to kill me?" The faces of several nascent soul cultivators changed repeatedly, their expressions extraordinarily ashamed. Being nascent soul cultivators, considered ancestors in small sects, yet forced to defend collectively by a golden core cultivator, was an utter humiliation for them. "Little beast, don't be smug," the old woman shouted angrily, then stretched out her hand and threw a crimson net. The net grew as it met the wind, quickly transforming into a massive net covering the sky, enveloping Lu Yi. A nascent soul cultivator nearby widened his eyes, exclaiming, "Is this the blood spirit sect's heavenly net?" The old woman sneered, "How could it be? The heavenly net is our blood spirit sect defending cultivation treasure, a top-grade artifact. This is an imitation of the heavenly net. Even so, it almost reaches the level of a low-grade treasure. Below divinity transformation, no one can avoid it. Even with his attack, he can't break it." Hearing this, numerous nascent soul cultivators' eyes gleamed. They watched Lu Yi intently, laughing heartily. "Very good, let this little beast be smug. He's fast, isn't he? Even if it's an imitation under the heavenly net, how can he escape?" Lu Yi also noticed at this moment that the magic artifact was somewhat strange. Just like the blood spirit sect Zhu Yu before, upon activation, it locked down an area of space, greatly reducing his range of maneuver. As the heavenly net contracted, it would trap him. However, that was merely for ordinary people. A gleam of sword light flashed through Lu Yi's eyes. His sword intent suddenly surged, almost forming several golden sword shadows in front of him. Under the control of his sword intent, the profound sun sword buzzed, and with a step forward, Lu Yi slashed with his sword. Golden red sword light, infused with thunder, soared into the sky, as if divine fire descended from heaven, intent on burning everything. The sword light struck the crimson heavenly net. The net shimmered with crimson brilliance, attempting to withstand the sword light, but was instantly torn apart by it, the sword light slicing the net in two. What? The old woman's face changed, turning somewhat pale. She had painstakingly refined this imitation of the heavenly net, and now that the artifact was destroyed, she also suffered backlash. The other nascent soul cultivators were equally shocked. How is this possible? Even if he wields a mid-grade treasure without sufficient strength, he should not be able to destroy such a magic artifact. His sword intent, more terrifying than before. Such sword chi, its power probably surpasses that of an ordinary nascent soul peak. Even those nascent soul peak cultivators now had extremely ugly expressions. The situation was more troublesome than they had imagined. After slicing through the heavenly net, Luya's sword intent soared to the heavens, his black hair wildly flying, his aura divine and demonic. Employing the sword origin escape, he disappeared again from the spot. Be careful! An elderly nascent soul peak cultivator shouted lowly, casting a long sword from his hand, slashing towards the air in front of the old woman. Just then Luyi abruptly reappeared at that spot, the long sword already near his chest. Everyone's hearts leaped with joy. But just as the corners of their mouths began to rise, they froze. Luyi appeared emotionless, reaching out with his left hand and directly grasping the long sword, the point of contact clanging like metal clashing. Luyi's body had thunder patterns forming around him, with mysterious thunder patterns condensing at his brow, his skin like golden jade, faintly revealing mysterious Tao patterns. His physical body had already been capable of withstanding nascent soul-destructive powers' heavenly tribulation since breaking through to the golden core realm, and now, after so much time, it was naturally even stronger. How is this possible? Elder Yuan's heartless sword can cut through nascent soul peak. How could it be grabbed bare-handed by this little beast? What kind of monster is this? His physical body is comparable to nascent soul peak. Everyone couldn't help but feel chilled. Luya turned his head, looked at the elder, and smiled slightly. Don't rush, your turn is coming soon. As he spoke, Luya squeezed his hand, and the top-grade cultivation treasure's long sword shattered inch by inch. The faces of the nascent soul cultivators turned deathly pale. Their physical bodies were nowhere near as hard as a top-grade cultivation treasure. Attack him together. I refuse to believe his body is indestructible. A burly man bellowed, leading the attack. The other cultivators also launched their attacks at Luyi. Luyi's body once again transformed into sword light, disappearing from sight. Originally, the nascent soul cultivators had formed a circle to prevent Luyi from killing swiftly with his terrifying speed. But once they all attacked Luyi, they naturally exposed their vulnerabilities again. Luyi reappeared behind the many nascent soul cultivators, the profound sun sword slashing repeatedly, sweeping terrifying sword chi across the sky, indiscriminately attacking all the nascent soul cultivators. Luyi was in a rather good mood. These fellows initially stood far apart, and Luyi could only kill them one by one. Now standing together, it actually made things easier for him. The terrible golden-red sword chi was unstoppable. Nearly everything in its path turned to ash. The mountains below were slashed by Luyi's several strokes, directly transforming into intertwining valleys. When the sword light dissipated, only 3 nascent soul peak cultivators remained. One was the elder, one the beautiful woman, and another the tall and muscular man. Chapter 190, 109 Young Immortal King 3. An old woman at the peak of the nascent soul realm who was originally there, unfortunately, couldn't dodge Luyi's sword and was killed on the spot. The 3 nascent soul peak cultivators had faces filled with terror, staring dead at Luyi, whose body was marked with thunder patterns and surrounded by streams of thunder that flowed around him, a tumultuous blend of chi blood power and spiritual energy wrapping his body. His black hair wildly danced, his aura shockingly fearsome. Merely a golden core cultivator, yet with every move, even nascent soul peak cultivators were turned to ash, the 3 of them seeing what seemed like a young, immortal king. Surrounded by thunder light, Luyi looked calmly at the 3 of them. It had been a long time since he had struck without any concern for the consequences. After all, every time Luyi made a move before, it was in a friendly match, and against Xianxia and the others, he never needed to use any real strength. Only now, with such decisive action, did Luyi realize just how far his power had advanced. He stepped forward, transformed into sword light, and charged at the 3 living nascent soul cultivators. Run! Seeing Luyi charging toward them, The faces of the three changed dramatically, each fleeing in different directions. But how fast was Luya's speed? In an instant, he changed direction, caught up with the elder, and a streak of crimson sword light flashed across the sky. Despite the elder's furious roars and the violent use of spiritual energy, he was powerless to resist and was engulfed by the sword light, reduced to ash. Luya didn't even spare him an additional look, instantly transformed into a residual shadow, and pursued the beautiful woman. Seeing Luya approaching, the beautiful woman's face drastically changed, and she opened her mouth to cry out, "Spare!" But before she could finish speaking, she was overrun by the sword light. Lu Yi, like a merciless assassin, once again surged toward the final muscular man. That muscular man was not slow and had run some distance away. But even so, Lu Yi still easily caught up with him. Seeing two cultivators with strengths not inferior to his own being killed, the muscular man's face turned ashen, and he bellowed in a last act of defiance. Unfortunately, it was as futile as a mantis trying to stop a chariot and did not help in the slightest. Lu Yi struck him down with a sword. After killing all the nascent soul cultivators, Lu Yi exhaled a turbid breath and looked towards the distant sky. That was where Liu Ningxuang and Zhu Yu were fighting. In the sky, dark clouds drifted by, snowstorms surged, covering the entire mountain range in snow, freezing to the bone. Liu Ningxuang, clad in white, stood in the air, elegant as an immortal. On the other side, a cloud of blood mist drifted, the thick stench of blood repulsive. Within the blood mist, streaks of wildly ferocious blood light shot out, some turning into long swords, some into enormous hands, and some into mountains, all attacking Liu Ningxuang. Liu Ningxuang, wielding the cold glass sword, had a cold and solemn expression as she continuously fended off the attacks. But even so, she still kept retreating, unable to fully resist Zhu Yu's offensive. Divinity transformation cultivators were incredibly strong. Compared to nascent soul cultivators, they were like dust to the radiant moon, entirely different levels. Even a nascent soul peak cultivator, when facing a divinity transformation cultivator who had just advanced, was too weak to resist a single blow. For Liu Ningxuang to be able to fend off a divinity transformation, cultivator's ferocious attacks with only nascent soul cultivation, was already an astonishing display of talent. Seeing Liu Ningxuang at a disadvantage, continuously retreating, her aura somewhat unstable, Luya turned into a stream of light and charged in the direction of their battle. Approaching the blood mist, his sword intent soared to the heavens, his body shimmering with golden spirit light as though donning a suit of golden armor. Luya spared no effort, unleashing his perfect sword intent, as the profound sun sword vibrated, emitting a humming sound. Immortal realm, accompanied by the destructive will of thunder, echoed with the profound sun power within the profound sun sword, conjuring 7 streaks of sword light in the air. He activated the 7 mysterious sword skill. The 7 streaks of sword light like crimson meteors poured into the blood mist, causing it to churn. Zhu Yu, sensing each streak of sword light, turned his head to look and saw Luya standing in the sky. His face instantly changed, and looking over, where could he still see the silhouettes of those 13 nascent soul cultivators? Their aura seemed as if it had never existed. He wildly waved his sleeves, the blood mist roiling, shooting out blood light that collided with the sword light, causing booming noises that echoed through heaven and earth. The shockwaves rampaged, striking the snow-covered mountain below, shaking it violently and fissuring it with cracks. The sword light, imbued with the immortal realm, was incredibly tough. Even after withstanding a blast of blood light, it only dimmed significantly, but did not shatter. Zhu Yu's expression changed, his face a picture of shock. Impossible! How can arts of the mere golden core realm resist my obliteration? He shot out blood light again, and only then managed to completely destroy the sword light of the 7 mysterious sword skill. This still left Zhu Yu with an unpleasant expression. At this time, Lu Yi had already reached Liu Ningxuang's side. Liu Ningxuang's red lips parted slightly, exhaling a breath, her gaze fixed on Zhu Yu in the distance. She asked softly, "Junior brother, how are you? Are you all right?" Lu Yi smiled. "I'm fine, but those nascent soul cultivators, not so much." Zhu Yu's face was extremely grim, his gaze piercing as he stared at Lu Yi, asking, "What happened to them?" The power that Liu Ningxuang unleashed was formidable. Even Zhu Yu could not take her lightly and had to focus all his attention on her. Yet, in such a short period of time, those 13 nascent soul cultivators had vanished without a trace, their presence as if it had never been. Zhu Yu felt something was amiss. Lu Yi looked at Zhu Yu and chuckled. Of course they're dead. Liu Ningxuang was taken aback, her eyes widening in astonishment as she looked at Lu Yi. Junior brother, you. Zhu Yu's pupils contracted slightly as he bellowed in anger. You little beast, dare to deceive me. No matter how talented you are, with the chasm between golden core and nascent soul being so vast, you claim you killed 13 nascent soul cultivators. Lu Yi, still smiling at Zhu Yu, replied, Don't you have the same thought in your heart? Upon hearing this, Zhu Yu's face grew even darker, his gaze fixated on Lu Yi. Zhu Yu had personally experienced those 7 streaks of sword qi from Lu Yi. With such sword qi, even a nascent soul peak cultivator would struggle to defend, unless they had special means. Otherwise, they could be killed in one hit. Zhu Yu's heart sank continuously, and after a moment of silence the blood mist around him swirled violently, his killing intent seething. He spoke coldly, Little beast, it seems we have all underestimated you. The more that is true, the less you can be left alive. I shall personally wipe you out. Chapter 191, 110, Slaying the Divinity Transformation. His whole body's aura surged. His sword intent soared to the skies, displaying his formidable power without any reservation. Liu Ningxuang felt Lu Yi's terrifying aura trembling slightly, and couldn't help but glance at him. Lu Yi said to Liu Ningxuang with a smile, Senior sister, today let's join forces and take down a divinity transformation cultivator. Liu Ningxuang's eyes sparkled with a light laugh. She nodded, her pretty face mantled with a cold color. Good. Humph, insolence. Such young age, yet completely unaware of your own limitations. Let me show you both just how incomparable you are to a divinity transformation cultivator. Zhu Yu bellowed angrily, his body surrounded by a surge of blood mist, carrying a strange and mysterious aura. He pinched a spell, and from the blood mist, a myriad of blood swords condensed, densely packed and in great number. 3,000 blood swords to send you both, little beasts, to the Yellow Springs, Zhu Yu declared. The blood swords shot out, aiming at Lu Yi and Liu Ningxuang, the overwhelming sword qi rampaging, slicing terrifying fissures into the mountains below. Lu Yi and Liu Ningxuang exchanged a glance, their spiritual energy flowing. A frigid air whirled unrestrained around Liu Ningxuang, her black hair dancing in the wind, snow swirling, condensing into block after block of ice crystal shields densely packed in front of the two. Lu Yi was enveloped by flashing immortal Tao patterns, and with the sweep of the profound sun sword, he conjured an immortal sword screen once more before them. The 3,000 blood swords clashed against the ice crystal shield. Boom, 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 boom. Spirit light surged, the blood swords shattered the ice crystal shields, and their number steadily decreased. In the end, several hundred blood swords landed on the immortal sword screen, the sword screen flickering, hazy and indefinite, yet extremely durable, staunchly blocking the remaining blood swords. Seeing his own arts thwarted, Zhu Yu's expression grew darker. Just then Liu Ningxuang reached out her hand. Her snow-white jade-like hand, akin to a dragon emerging from the sea, summoned a vast hand of ice and violent winds in the sky, and with it, she ferociously slammed down towards Zhu Yu. Ouch! Zhu Yu issued a furious rebuke, spitting out a blood-colored sash, which collided with the massive hand of ice and snow, producing a thunderous noise that made the very heavens and earth shake, the space around also warping. Under the roar, the hand shattered into a sky full of snow and dissipated. At that moment, a streak of sword light flashed by. Lu Yi charged into the blood mist, arriving beside Zhu Yu. Thunder patterns condensed on his skin, flashing with eye-piercing purple light. The markings on his forehead were even more mysterious. His skin gleamed like gold and jade, his blood and qi surging around him like a sun furnace, unleashing terrifying original power. His left hand clenched into a fist and mercilessly smashed towards Zhu Yu's head. Under the power of the fist, the blood mist dispersed, space concaved, forming wisps of white smoke. Even Zhu Yu was startled by such a terrifying aura. He waved his big sleeve like an endless sea of blood rushing forth, moving to strike Lu Yi. Boom! The fist and the sea of blood collided, the roaring was thunderous. Lu Yi felt an awful force striking his body. His body, which had remained unharmed even during the 12-mile heavenly tribulation, now felt bursts of pain and was instantaneously sent flying. On the path to immortality, the higher the level, the greater the gap between each realm. The gap between the golden core and the nascent soul realm may be considerable, But the disparity between divinity transformation and nascent soul is like a chasm, hard to cross. For Lu Yi, fighting divinity transformation as a golden core was already unimaginably powerful. Even so, though he could crush nascent soul cultivators' bodies with his bare hands, he still struggled to break through Zhu Yu's sea of blood. Lu Yu was sent flying hundreds of meters, landing heavily on a mountain peak below, directly smashing the peak into rubble. The next moment, Lu Yu rose to the skies, his body flashing with thunder patterns, his aura robust as a scorching sun, without a scratch on him. Seeing that Lu Yi appeared unscathed, Zhu Yu's pupils involuntarily contracted, his face filled with shock. "You little beast, what body-refining techniques have you cultivated? Your physical body is so powerful." Lu Yi, feeling the intense pain coming from his body, bared his teeth. "You keep calling me a little beast. You're the old rascal here. You've lived long enough, it's about time you had enough. Today I'll send you to your death." Lu Yi stepped forward, transforming once again into a sword light, charging towards Zhu Yu. Zhu Yu's face was extremely grim as he shouted in a low voice, "So what if you have a sturdy body? It's just perfect for crafting into a cultivation treasure. I'll refine your physical body into a treasure." He reached out to grab, and pillars of blood-colored light soared to the sky, the beams like dragons, forming a net of heaven and earth enveloping Lu Yi. Just then, an intense coldness gathered in the distance. Liu Ningxuang's black hair turned white, and a mysterious ice pattern surfaced on her forehead. Her pretty face was cold as the ice goddess in the snow. The chill around her even seemed to freeze the very space, inexplicably making a clicking sound in the air. The next moment, Liu Ningxuang's lips parted slightly, whispering softly, "Ice God Seal." The cold glass sword floated in front of Liu Ningxuang, releasing spirit light. With repeated sealings by her hands, a terribly cold force gathered above her head. In the end, it turned into a massive blue big seal. The big seal, like a great mountain, charged into the blood mist. The blood mist solidified into ice, and the big seal suppressed Zhu Yu below it, pushing him against the mountain peak. Zhu Yu's face subtly changed as he swatted towards the ice god seal with his other hand, the spirit light standing like a pillar holding up against the ice god seal. Creak, creak, creak. The ice god seal pressed down, and sections of the blood-colored pillar began to freeze. Zhu Yu's expression shifted. "What?" Boom! The blood-colored pillar shattered. The ice god seal crushed down on Zhu Yu, pinning him to the mountain peak. Chapter 192, 110, Slaying Divinity Transformation 2. The peak shattered on the spot, transforming into flying rubble. The surrounding area was frozen by extreme cold, forming an icy realm. Just then, cracks appeared on the ice god seal, which then exploded with a bang, and Zhu Yu burst out from within. There were still many areas on his body covered with frost, and he exhaled a breath of cold mist from his mouth. However, Zhu Yu's aura was not weakened in the slightest. His eyes were chillingly cold as he swept over the two and said icily, "You've got some skills." Before his words faded, Lu Yi had already appeared behind him, with the profound sun sword carrying an unimaginably fierce aura, chopping down fiercely. This was the tribulation sword form he had comprehended earlier. Once activated, it used sword intent to drive heavenly thunder, immensely tough and extraordinarily fierce. The hundreds of meters of sword light, like a heavenly sword falling, caused Zhu Yu's expression to change again. His body suddenly dispersed into a mist of blood. The sword light passed through the blood mist and struck the ground, tearing a rift in the earth. The next moment, Zhu Yu appeared in the distant blood mist. He flipped his hand to pull out a purple tripod. The tripod was worn and even had several fine cracks, showing its age. Zhu Yu's spiritual energy surged, pouring into the purple tripod. The next moment, the tripod soared into the sky, growing to dozens of meters in size and shrouding Lu Yi and Liu Ningxuang. The mouth of the tripod was like a black hole that absorbed everything inside. Lu Yi and Liu Ningxuang both felt an irresistible suction pulling them toward the tripod. The two changed color, their spiritual energy surging around them. Set against a backdrop of swirling ice and snow around Ningxuang, they both tried their best to stabilize their figures. Seeing this, Zhu Yu sneered, "Useless. This is a high-grade treasure that I obtained from an ancient site. Although it's badly damaged, it still possesses the power of a treasure." He shouted lowly. The blood mist condensed, transforming into beams of bloodlight that shot toward the two. Caught in their struggle against the purple tripod's attraction, the pair had no choice but to operate their arts to fend off the blood light. This left them unable to resist the pull of the purple tripod, and they were both drawn toward it. Just as they were about to be sucked into the tripod, Luya's body burst into flames of blood, enveloping him in blood-red flames, and his aura surged several times over. He grabbed Ningxuang by the hand and forcibly stamped his legs on the sides of the tripod. Bang! A booming sound erupted, as if signaling the evening drum and morning bell, turning into a fierce wind that rushed into the distance. Wherever it passed, rocks flew and snow fluttered. The purple tripod trembled and then was unexpectedly kicked flying by Lu Yi, crashing heavily into a mountain and smashing it to pieces. Zhu Yu exclaimed incredulously, "Even though it's worn out, this tripod still possesses the power of a low-grade treasure. How could it be kicked away?" Staring fixedly at Lu Yi, a hint of shock appeared on his face. At this moment Lu Yi, with blood flames slowly burning around him and a terrifying aura, even Zhu Yu felt a lethal threat. Ningxuang, less concerned about Lu Yi touching her, noticed something odd about Lu Yi's state. Her cool face slightly changed as she frowned. "Junior brother, what is this?" Lu Yi exhaled a breath of stale air, releasing Ningxuang, and said, "This is a blood-burning secret technique that can greatly enhance my combat strength in a short time." Ningxuang's face changed slightly. The cost of this technique must be substantial, right? A look of concern appeared on her face. Lu Yi smiled. "Senior sister need not worry. Previously, by a stroke of luck, I obtained a heavenly materials and earthly treasures that can substitute for essence blood." Saying this, Lu Yi took out a 1,000-year-old blood ginseng and started chewing on it directly. As the 1,000-year-old blood ginseng entered his belly, it immediately substituted for essence blood, which Lu Yi burned using the blood-burning technique. Feeling the tremendous power within his body, Lu Yi was also quite astonished. Perhaps because his own body was strong enough. Although his physical strength wasn't on par with that of a divinity transformation cultivator, it far surpassed that of a typical nascent soul peak cultivator. The burning of his essence blood brought a huge increase in power. Furthermore, over these days, Lu Yi's blood-burning technique had been improving, reaching its limit, and the effects it produced were extremely powerful. This made Lu Yi's strength multiply several times over. At this moment, Lu Yi felt his own power had even surpassed Ningxuang by a lot. Seeing Lu Yi's condition seemed stable, Ningxuang breathed a sigh of relief, glanced at the purple tripod with a hint of alarm and said, "If we had been sucked into that tripod, it would have been real trouble." Lu Yi nodded slightly and chuckled. "I naturally won't let senior sister run into trouble." "You two little beasts, you're really taking me too lightly," shouted Zhu Yu, having calmed his inner turmoil in the distance furiously. He formed a spell with his hands, and the distant purple tripod flew back, coming down on Lu Yi and Ningxuang again. Seeing this, Lu Yi's expression grew solemn. He slowly said, "This treasure is not weak, senior sister. I'll hold off the treasure while you deal with that old codger." Ningxuang nodded. With her white hair flying, she transformed into a streak of cold light and flew towards Zhu Yu. During her flight, Ningxuang continuously formed seals, striking out with giant icy hands one after another. Zhu Yu scoffed and smashed the purple tripod toward Ningxuang. Just then, Lu Yi suddenly appeared in front of the tripod. He clenched his fist, and his fist forcefully landed on the tripod. Bang! The purple tripod vibrated, and Lu Yi also felt an excruciating pain in his fist. The material of the tripod was too hard. Even with Lu Yi's strength multiplied several times, he still couldn't shatter it, and even felt extreme pain in his fist. However, with one punch, the tripod, originally plunging like a meteor, immediately stopped in its tracks. Chapter 193, 110, Slaying the Divinity Transformation 3. Seeing this scene, Zhu Yu's eyes widened. What kind of freakish strength does this little beast have? His physical body can actually withstand an artifact. Disbelieving, he continued to pinch the spell. The purple tripod expanded and enveloped Lu Yi, attempting to capture him within and refine him alive. Lu Yi felt the terrifying suction force and remained calm. Using the blood-burning technique, his strength had increased far too much compared to before. He stamped heavily on the purple tripod with one foot. Dang! The purple tripod vibrated again and flew out. This time, Zhu Yu finally believed it. He roared angrily and tried to control the purple tripod again, but Liu Ningxuang had already rushed up to him, forming the ice god seal once more and suppressing him with it. Zhu Yu shouted lowly, utilizing his arts, and shot out streaks of blood-colored rainbow light to combat the ice god seal, resulting in a stalemate between the two. It was evident that Liu Ningxuang was also in a special state at this moment. Her strength had increased significantly as well, and even in such a confrontation, she did not retreat. Seeing this, Luya stepped forward and charged out, his body's blood and qi like a blood-colored meteor, rushing towards Zhu Yu. Zhu Yu's face was ferocious, summoning the purple tripod again and smashing it down hard on Lu Yi. Lu Yi's body, like that of a divine being, carried tremendous power in his fists, pounding continuously on the purple tripod. Dang 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 dang. The booming sounds were endless, and the purple tripod trembled repeatedly. At that moment, as Lu Yi's punch landed, the already existing cracks in the purple tripod widened, and it was directly shattered by Lu Yi, forming a huge gap. With the purple tripod broken, its momentum greatly diminished, and even Zhu Yu turned pale, spitting out a mouthful of fresh blood. Ever since Zhu Yu had acquired the purple tripod, he treasured it like nothing else, refining it day and night. It was his trump card, and he had already merged his mind and spirit with the purple tripod. This purple tripod, though just a damaged high-grade treasure, had a might that was only equivalent to a low-grade treasure, but it was so important to Zhu Yu. It was imaginable how shocked he was when he saw Liu Ningxuang holding the cold glass sword. Now that the purple tripod had been shattered by Lu Yi, Zhu Yu's mind and spirit were also severely damaged, and even the blood mist around his body had dimmed a lot. Naturally, Liu Ningxuang would not miss such an opportunity. Her body surged with spiritual energy, and the ice god's seal, like a 10,000-pound cold iron, pressed down fiercely, landing on Zhu Yu. Zhu Yu was once again crushed into the ground, and the land roared while the mountains shook violently. Beneath the ice god's seal, the ground directly turned into a huge deep pit, like a basin. The next moment the ice god's seal shattered, and a streak of blood light rushed out. It was Zhu Yu. Zhu Yu was in a sorry state at this point. His body was full of purple bruises from the cold injuries, and his aura was much weaker than before. Without any hesitation, he flew straight towards the distance, attempting to escape. Zhu Yu was extremely fast. Liu Ningxuang was caught off guard for a moment and he had already flown a great distance. Her face changed slightly. He's trying to run. Lu Yi sneered, want to escape. His body turned into sword light, vanishing instantly from the spot, using the extreme level sword origin escape. Even just the extreme level sword origin escape had a terrifying speed, which would not be inferior even when facing a divinity transformation cultivator. Moreover, was Lu Yi not also in the state of the blood-burning technique at this moment? Lu Yi's body, like teleportation, traversed space and directly appeared in front of Zhu Yu. Zhu Yu saw Lu Yi blocking the way in front of him, and without even having time to stop, he charged straight ahead. His pupils constricted and his face turned ferocious as he bellowed, "Get out of the way." Bloodlight flashed around Zhu Yu as he consecutively brought out several cultivation treasures, shooting them towards Lu Yi. Lu Yi's face was without expression. He continued to punch, shattering these treasures and charging towards Zhu Yu. Zhu Yu's arts surged, with blood light, blood swords, and blood-colored giant hands constantly falling on Lu Yi's body. Lu Yi's body was ablaze with blood-colored flames, with thunder patterns flashing as if all laws are not invaded, making all the arts seem ineffective, unable to stop Lu Yi's advance. Under the blood-burning technique, even a divinity transformation cultivator's attack could be withstood by the strength of Lu Yi's physical body. Lu Yi quickly reached Zhu Yu and threw his right fist towards him. His fist twisted and shook the space as it passed, carrying an incredibly terrifying power. Zhu Yu kept shouting in anger, attempting to defend himself, but Lu Yi's punch hit him on both hands. His hands were instantly turned into a mist of blood, and his body was sent flying backward. Lu Yi again moved like a blink, appearing behind Zhu Yu, and a punch landed on his chest, directly turning his physical body into a dispersing blood mist. Within the blood mist, a streak of blood light flew out, heading toward the distance. Lu Yi had anticipated this and reached out to grab, a terrifying force instantly binding the space, holding that streak of blood light in midair. That was Zhu Yu's nascent soul. Zhu Yu's nascent soul displayed a face filled with terror and was pulled back by Lu Yi. He cried out loudly, "I am the supreme elder of the blood spirit sect. If you kill me, there will be no more room for reconciliation between the blood spirit sect and the white cloud sect." Lu Yi's face remained expressionless as he crushed the nascent soul in his hand, murmuring to himself, "There is no room for reconciliation now." Just at that moment a streak of light flew over. It was Liu Ningxuang. Liu Ningxuang's white hair fluttered, her face cold and detached, her presence akin to an immortal from the Moon Palace. She looked at the slowly dissipating blood mist, a hint of confusion flashing across her face as she whispered softly, "He's dead." Liu Yi nodded slightly, and with a light chuckle he said, "Oh." Liu Ningxuang fell silent for a moment, then smiled lightly and shook her head. "It's a bit hard to believe that the two of us actually killed a divinity transformation cultivator." Liu Yi laughed heartily, stating, "When brother and sister stand united, we are naturally as powerful as metal that slices gold." Liu Ningxuang looked at the blood energy burning around Liu Yi, floated over, and examined him carefully, then frowned. "Are you really okay?" Liu Yi nodded, stopped the blood burning technique, and with a light chuckle he said, "Look, jumping around full of energy. The heavenly materials and earthly treasures I consumed just now can replace the essence blood." Liu Yi also felt somewhat amazed in his heart. The blood-burning secret technique was not a small consumer of energy. That brief activation just now led him to consume 1/3 of a 1,000-year-old blood ginseng. He only had 2 of those in total, which meant he could only use it 6 times. Moreover, as his strength increased, he feared that the amount of essence blood consumed with every activation of the blood-burning secret technique would be even greater. He might not even manage to use it 6 times. While Liu Yi was pondering, Liu Ningxuang breathed a sigh of relief, recalling the warmth she had felt while Liu Yi's arms were wrapped around her waist, as if the lingering warmth was still present. Her gaze flickered slightly, brushed aside the strange feeling in her heart, and she said, "I'm glad you're all right." Her white hair also returned to its black hue, her face a touch pale from the exertion. She looked straight at Liu Yi, a slight smile on her face. "After today, junior brother, I'm afraid you'll be famous throughout the Eastern Domain. For someone with a golden core cultivation to kill a divinity transformation cultivator, it's almost unimaginable." Chapter 194, 111, Rising Reputation Extra Update for 1,000 monthly tickets. Liu Yi chuckled upon hearing this. "This isn't solely my achievement. Without elder sister Liu, I would have had no way to deal with that divinity transformation cultivator. Besides, what's so good about becoming famous?" Liu Ningxuang gave a faint smile and said no more. She turned to look in the direction behind them. Far in the distance, the battle between cave void realm powerhouses continued. The sky flickered uncertainly, at times pitch black and at others silvery white. Even from where they stood, they could feel the terrifying fluctuations of spiritual power. Liu Ningxuang said softly, "Let's go. We should leave this place first." Liu Yi nodded his head. He had no intention of joining the fray. Jokingly, he thought about how formidable the divinity transformation realm cultivators already were, and he had almost used up all his tricks. Even if he was not in the central zone of the battles, he doubted he could survive facing the cave void realm fighters. If he returned, it would only add to Elder Ming's troubles, especially since Yu Ying had been targeting him the entire time. "Let's go. We'll head to Qinju Tianlu City first and wait for Elder Ming there," he said. The two transformed into beams of light and flew towards Qinju. With Elder Ming holding off the cave void cultivators, no one pursued them, allowing Liu Yi and Liu Ningxuang an easy escape. That evening, Liu Yi checked the rewards he received. True dragon blood and 1,000-year-old spirit marrow needed no further mention, but the primary item was the low-grade spiritual artifact, the soul calming pearl. This was a spiritual pearl that could nourish the divine soul. Placed into the sea of consciousness, it could protect and nourish the divine soul, providing extremely powerful effects. The effect of the jade wine Liu Yi drank now was less significant than before. His spiritual power was so strong it even surpassed that of ordinary divinity transformation cultivators, and even the golden core realm's jade wine was not very effective for him anymore. The arrival of this soul-calming pearl was timely. Furthermore, some powerful divinity transformation cultivators and even stronger cultivators had incredibly potent divine soul capabilities. They might possess unpredictable soul-attacking techniques. With the soul-calming pearl, Liu Yi didn't have to worry about this issue anymore. While Liu Ningxuang wasn't looking, Liu Yi stashed away the rewards. He placed the true dragon blood and 1,000-year-old spirit marrow into his interspatial ring, and the soul-calming pearl into his sea of consciousness. Hovering above his golden lake, the pearl cast colorful lights down onto the lake, gently nourishing Liu Yi's spirit. Liu Yi and Liu Ningxuang traveled through deep mountains and dense forests, moving swiftly and covertly. After several days, they finally exited Heavenly Snake Sect's territory. The territory of Heavenly Snake Sect bordering Bright Moon Valley territory, which for the time being had not joined the battle in Qingzhou, brought them some relief. However, just to be cautious, Luya taught Liu Ningxuang the transformation technique. With her talents, she managed to grasp the basics in just a few days. Although the rudimentary transformation technique they employed had many flaws and could not be maintained constantly, it was largely undetectable by cultivators with lower cultivation bases, who also wouldn't be constantly in their presence. After slightly altering their appearances, Lu Yi and Liu Ningxuang entered a city to gather information. They wanted to find out Elder Ming's current situation. Before long, they heard guests discussing something in a tavern. Did you hear? An immortal from the White Cloud sect left to attend the Divine Sword sect's Sword Dao conference, but was ambushed on the way by the powerful sent by the four sects of the Blood Spirit sect. What, really? The talent of White Cloud sect's Immortal is unparalleled and his strength is stunning. He single-handedly saved many people during the anomaly in East Forest ruins a while back. Could he have perished so young? What a pity, a pity. You're mistaken, that Immortal didn't die. He didn't die? How could those formidable ones from the four sects fail to kill that Immortal? Are those powerhouses that weak, or did the four sects not take it seriously? They took it seriously enough. Even the Yuluo sect's reclusive elder Yu Ying took action, but unfortunately, they underestimated the importance the White Cloud sect placed on that Immortal. The incredibly powerful sword cultivator Nan Liuming was actually guarding that Immortal, and they couldn't succeed. I see, no wonder then. He's been a famous sword cultivator for thousands of years, and after breaking through to the cave void realm, he's probably even more astonishing, definitely capable of protecting the Immortal. What's most shocking is, among the attackers were 3 divinity transformation cultivators and 13 nascent soul cultivators. 2 divinity transformation cultivators teamed up with Yu Ying to stall Nan Liuming, while the other divinity transformation cultivator and the 13 nascent soul cultivators went after that Immortal. Guess what? When Yu Ying found them, he discovered that all those divinity transformation and nascent soul cultivators were dead. Customers around them gasped in shock. All dead? Could it have been that Immortal who killed them? How young he is, yet so terrifyingly powerful. I heard that besides Nan Liuming, Immortal Liu Ningxuang also accompanied that Immortal this time. It might have been Liu Ningxuang and the Immortal who took action together. Immortal Liu Ningxuang, the one on the young talents ranking, although her talents are unmatched, killing a divinity transformation cultivator, might be out of her capabilities, right? I suspect they acted together, or perhaps they still had some tricks up their sleeves. If it truly was Immortal Liu Ningxuang and Lu Yi who together killed a divinity transformation cultivator and all those nascent soul cultivators, then this news might shock the entire Eastern domain. Indeed, hearing that the Immortal is now at the Golden Core realm, even if he joined forces with Immortal Liu Ningxuang, killing a divinity transformation cultivator and 13 nascent soul cultivators would still be an unprecedented marvel. Chapter 195, 111, Rising to Fame Extra Chapter for 1,000 monthly tickets, 2. I've long heard that the Immortal Seed is like an ancient demon with such battle achievements, confirming this point. From now on, it will undoubtedly draw considerable attention from the unparalleled geniuses of the Eastern domain. Hearing these words, Lu Yi and Liu Ningxuang exchanged glances. Lu Yi had transformed into a handsome young man, while Liu Ningxuang had become a girl with ordinary looks. Liu Ningxuang's lips curled into a smile, and she transmitted her voice. Junior brother, it seems your name will soon spread throughout the Eastern domain. Lu Yi could only smile helplessly and then asked, Brother, what happened to Nan Liuming afterward? Hearing this, the cultivator laughed and said, Of course, he left easily. That elder's swordsmanship is extremely astonishing. Not even Yu Ying and 2 divinity transformation cultivators could stop him. With the news that Nan Liuming was safe, Lu Yi felt calmer as well. He dropped a few spirit stones to settle the bill and left with Liu Ningxuang. After that, the two of them continued their journey, heading towards Qingzhou. 2 days later, they suddenly saw a group of cultivators flying across the sky. These cultivators had a potent aura, and some of them wore blood-colored robes, the unmistakable presence of the Blood Spirit sect. This made both Lu Yi and Liu Ningxuang frown. This is the territory of Bright Moon Valley. How can the cultivators of the Blood Spirit sect brazenly appear here? Judging by their looks, they're probably searching for something. Could it be us? Liu Ningxuang also frowned slightly. The two looked at each other, and Liu Ningxuang said with a frown, could it be that Bright Moon Valley has joined forces with the four sects of the Blood Spirit sect? After discussing, they followed the direction from which the group of cultivators came, and before long, they found themselves in a city. They changed their appearances and entered, and soon in the city center, they saw a wanted notice. The wanted notice, of course, bore Lu Yi's and Liu Ningxuang's likenesses. This weighed heavily on their minds. Liu Ningxuang sighed lightly. It looks like the Bright Moon sect really has joined the alliance with the Blood Spirit sect's four sects. Lu Yi also felt helpless. Wenjian Manor had joined the White Cloud sect, and the balance maintained for a short time was once again broken. It was apparent that after so many years of fierce battles between the two sides, they had both reached the point of true fire, and it seemed unlikely they would stop without a decisive victory. This wasn't a matter Lu Yi and Liu Ningxuang could handle. They could only continue on their way. A few more days passed, and they left the territory of Bright Moon Valley. Bright Moon Valley was on the border of the intersection between Qingzhou and Qinzhou. Once they left Bright Moon Valley's territory, they entered Qinzhou. Lu Yi was not very familiar with Qinzhou, but Liu Ningxuang had experienced hardships in the eastern domain and naturally knew about Qinzhou. She described the situation of Tianlu City to Lu Yi. Tianlu City is a very famous city in Qinzhou. Outside Tianlu City lies a mountain range, within which is Tianlu Mountain. Ancient records state that the area around Tianlu Mountain was once dominated by a powerful sect that ruled with an iron fist, striking fear into both cultivators and mortals alike. Later, a divine deer descended upon one of the mountains. The great power of that sect wanted to capture the divine deer to serve as the sect's protector beast, but overnight, the mighty sect was reduced to ashes, and the cultivators and mortals under its control finally had the chance to breathe. To commemorate the divine deer, the local people named the mountain where the divine deer descended Tianlu Mountain. Whether the tale from the ancient records is true or not, no one can say for sure, as too much time has passed and the details are difficult to verify. However, the legend of Tianlu Mountain has attracted many cultivators to the Tianlu Mountain range for trials, believing that since the divine deer descended to that region, there might be some divine treasure in the mountain range that lured the divine deer there. Unfortunately, over the years, no one has ever found anything. Upon arriving in Qinzhou, Lu Yi no longer needed to worry about the Qingzhou sect pursuing them. The two of them relaxed quite a bit, traveling northward and flying for several days until they reached Tianlu City. It was a bustling metropolis, and throughout Lu Yi's journey from Qingzhou to Qinzhou, there were few cities that could compare to Tianlu City in scale. The city was bustling with activity. Cultivators occasionally flew on their swords in the sky, with mortals and cultivators living together. Lu Yi and Liu Ningxuang entered the city, found an inn to stay in, and waited for Elder Ming to find them. The next morning, Lu Yi and Liu Ningxuang were awakened by a powerful sword intent. They left their room and exchanged glances, both revealing a smile. It's Elder Ming's aura. He's signaling to us that he has arrived. Together, they flew out of the inn, heading in the direction of the aura. Many cultivators in the city were disturbed by the powerful sword intent, with several floating in the air, looking around in uncertainty and discussing amongst themselves. Such a formidable sword intent, it's almost as if it could pierce through the heavens. This aura should belong to a cave void cultivator, right? And a sword cultivator with such sword intent at that, who would be so reckless to provoke such a formidable cultivator. There might be a scene worth watching. Shall we go take a look? Some people flew towards the outskirts of the city, intending to see for themselves what was happening. Just then, a loud laugh rang out. Which fellow Taoist graces Tianlu City with their presence? This old man has neglected to greet you from afar. I hope you'll forgive my oversight. Is it the Supreme Elder of the Moon West sect? Even he has been alerted. The crowd exclaimed in shock. Then they saw a streak of cold, silver light slice across the sky, like a moonbeam racing toward the outskirts of the city. Naturally, Lu Yi and Liu Ningxuang also noticed the reactions of the people around them. They looked at each other, each seeing a hint of helplessness in the other's eyes. Chapter 196, 111, Rising to Fame Extra Chapter for 1,000 monthly tickets, 3. I didn't expect Elder Ming to cause such a commotion, Lu Yi said with a wry smile. Liu Ningxuang nodded slightly, equally at a loss for words. The two continued on their way. Soon, they saw Elder Ming standing outside the city, with no one daring to approach within a few hundred meters, and cultivators in the distance were watching the situation here closely. A silver-haired elder landed in front of Elder Ming, sizing him up with some caution. Elder Ming smiled slightly and cupped his hands, saying, "Fellow Taoist need not worry. This old man is here only to look for someone and means no harm." Relieved by these words, the silver-haired elder chuckled and asked, "In that case, do you need any help?" "No need, I've already found what I was looking for," Elder Ming replied with a smile. Lu Yi and Liu Ningxuang were very close by now. They hadn't deliberately hidden their presence, so with a simple sweep of his powerful divine sense, Elder Ming easily located them. Seeing that Elder Ming did not wish to say more, the silver-haired elder also refrained from further questions, lightly laughing as he said, "I see, it's good that you found them. Would you like to visit my mansion?" Once again, Elder Ming smiled and politely declined, indicating his intention to leave. The silver-haired elder said no more and transformed into a streak of light, flying back to Tianlu City, while Elder Ming flew toward the distant Tianlu mountain range. Seeing that nothing happened, the cultivators also left one by one. Lu Yi and Liu Ningxuang exchanged glances, like the other cultivators, and left the city. The two headed toward the Tianlu mountain range, and not long after, in a deserted forest, Elder Ming found them. Elder Ming glanced at them and asked, "The two of you, did you kill those 13 nascent soul cultivators and the divinity transformation cultivator?" Lu Yi and Liu Ningxuang both nodded slightly. Elder Ming clapped his hands and laughed loudly. "Ha ha ha! Excellent, excellent! A golden core and a nascent soul managed to slay so many nascent soul cultivators and a divinity transformation cultivator. I suppose the faces of the people from the 4 sects of the Blood Spirit sect must be green by now. You should know that even in such a grand battle in Qingzhou, so far, only a handful of divinity transformation cultivators have died. Now that one has died at the hands of 2 juniors, you can imagine how colorful the expressions of those sect elders must be." Lu Yi and Liu Ningxuang nodded. The 3 of them moved again, flying towards Wangzhou. Since they were out of Qingzhou, they no longer needed to be so discreet and could afford to stay in the cities. With just over a month left before the Sword Tao Conference began, they flew and traveled along the way, finally entering the region of Wangzhou after a month. As the host state of the Divine Sword Sect, a Sword Tao sacred land, Lu Yi noticed that almost every cultivator in Wangzhou carried a sword on their back. Not every 10 were sword cultivators, but certainly 8 out of 10 practiced the sword Tao. Sword cultivation was quite the trend in Wangzhou. The 3 traveled to a city, and, while staying in an inn, overheard discussions about the Sword Tao Conference. "I heard that the old sect leader of the Divine Sword Sect has returned. He might personally explain the Sword Tao to the juniors at the Sword Tao Conference. This year's conference is bound to be extraordinarily lively." Yes, and in recent years, Sword Tao prodigies in the Eastern Domain have been sprouting like spring bamboo after the rain. Not to mention the 2 monstrously talented individuals, Jian Ruyu and Wang Kaifeng, from the Divine Sword Sect. Yu Weiwei of the Jade Sword Sect seems to have also comprehended powerful sword intent. Not to mention, there are numerous talented sword cultivators emerging outside of Wangzhou, causing quite a stir. Apart from the older generation of sword cultivators, these talented younger ones are likely all heading this way for the competition, right? The sword fights then are sure to be quite spectacular, someone else chimed in. Yes, every sword fight brings out once-in-a-lifetime geniuses who are exceptionally invited to contemplate in front of the Divine Sword Steel at the Divine Sword Sect. It's truly enviable, added another. Lu Yi and his companions were sitting not far away, Elder Ming showing a look of surprise as he listened to the people discussing, and said, "I didn't expect that old sect leader to have returned." Lu Yi, somewhat puzzled, asked, "Wasn't that old sect leader usually at the Divine Sword Sect?" Liu Ningxuang spoke up. "It is said that the old senior is rarely seen, seldom staying at the Divine Sword Sect and almost always traveling outside. It's unexpected that he has returned this time. Whenever there is a Sword Tao conference and the old sect leader is present, he surely explains the Sword Tao to the sword cultivators. Junior brother, you are indeed quite fortunate." Lu Yi's eyes sparkled, revealing a look of surprise as he smiled. "It seems my luck is indeed promising. If the old sect leader really did explain the Sword Tao, the task rewards wouldn't be too shabby, right?" After all, he's nearly half a step away from crossing the tribulation for ascension, probably one of the most powerful individuals in the whole Tiananmen. Lu Yi felt somewhat expectant. Additionally, Lu Yi held another expectation. The divine sword steel of the divine sword sect was famously renowned throughout the entire Tiananmen. It was said that after the founder of the sect ascended to immortality, he returned to Tiananmen and left behind the steel engraved with profoundly deep sword Tao concepts. You should know that powerhouse was an immortal and a sword cultivator who specialized in the sword Tao. The sword Tao concepts left by such a high-level powerhouse would undoubtedly be profoundly deep. If he could comprehend under the divine sword steel, breaking through to the sword Tao domain realm should not pose too great a challenge. Lu Yi internally made up his mind that, come what may, he must achieve victory in the sword fights. He thought to himself, I must win in the sword fights at the Sword Tao Conference. Task: win in the sword fights at the Sword Tao Conference. Reward: top-grade artifact Mingxin sword. Accept yes/no. Another top-grade artifact. Lu Yi was surprised and then also delighted. Top-grade artifacts were extremely rare, and naturally, Lu Yi would not refuse another one. He happily accepted the task. After resting, the three continued on their journey. Soon they arrived near the Divine Sword Sect. Even from hundreds of miles away from the Divine Sword Sect, Lu Yi could see a massive stone sword piercing the ground, its hilt soaring into the clouds, making it impossible to ascertain just how tall it was. But just being visible from hundreds of miles away probably indicated an extremely exaggerated height. Around the stone sword, clouds surrounded, and atop the clouds floated numerous strangely beautiful and splendid immortal mountains. All the immortal mountains floated around the stone sword, with rising mists and drifting immortal energy. The rich spiritual energy formed a colorful glow that enveloped the entire area, making the entire divine sword sect seem unlike the mortal world. Chapter 197, 112 Sword Tao Platform. Lu Yi was amazed beyond belief. Mountains floating on clouds. This is my first time seeing one. Previously, Lu Yi had read about many strange sights in Tiananmen in ancient books, including palaces that never fall, mountains floating in the sky, seas filled with magma, and so on. However, he had never personally seen these strange sights before, and this time he finally got to see one of them. Liu Ningxuang had evidently been to Divine Sword Sect before and was not surprised. She said with a light laugh, Divine Sword Sect is one of the immortal sects of Tiananmen, and it once birthed an immortal. Naturally, it's extraordinary. Lu Yi asked, does every Holy Land immortal sect have such floating immortal mountains? Of course, Elder Ming said with a laugh. Lu Yi sighed, then laughed. I really hope our sect can have such an immortal mountain in the future. Elder Ming laughed heartily. If you manage to ascend, you could indeed transform White Cloud sect into an everlasting immortal mountain. Liu Ningxuang looked at Lu Yi, also wearing a light smile. With junior brother's talent, it might not be impossible in the future. Even Liu Ningxuang greatly admired Lu Yi's natural gift. The three of them continued forward, and as they approached the Divine Sword Sect, they found more and more people. One after another, cultivators carrying long swords were flying toward Divine Sword Sect as if on a pilgrimage. For sword cultivators in the Eastern Domain, Divine Sword Sect truly was a holy sight. Some of these sword cultivators traveled alone, while others were accompanied by friends, traveling in pairs or small groups. Just then, an incomparably sharp sword intent condensed from afar. Moving at a great speed, it drew closer from behind them. The cultivators' expressions changed, and they quickly turned around. Someone exclaimed, it's by Xianxia from Golden Sword Sect of Qinju. He's a genius sword cultivator from Qinju, rumored to have comprehended sword intent when he first entered the Golden Core realm. Now, his sword intent is probably no less than 40%. 1 year ago, when he reached the Golden Core peak, he killed a nascent soul beginner elder with 3 strikes. His strength is truly astounding. I wonder if he has received a Sword Tao order. With his talent, he should have, right? The crowd buzzed with discussion. Lu Yi watched the young man riding his sword with an expression of cool indifference and an upright posture. His cultivation was at the Golden Core peak, and his aura of sword intent was extremely powerful, released without any reservations. An elder in the divinity transformation realm followed by his side, also very powerful, with an aura as terrifying as an abyss. Wherever Bai Xianxia passed, sword cultivators moved aside to avoid blocking his path. Soon, Luya saw Bai Xiaoming flying not far from them, heading toward Divine Sword Sect. Luya was somewhat surprised. This person's sword intent is strong. Despite being merely at the Golden Core realm, he already possesses about 40% of it. Upon hearing this, Liu Ningxuang and Elder Ming fell silent. Is that something that could be said? At that moment, 3 golden profound birds pulling a chariot streaked across the sky. Golden profound birds were fierce beasts of the nascent soul realm. Having 3 golden profound birds pull a chariot indicated that the cultivator's identity and status inside were probably not low. Someone exclaimed, "It's people from Emperor Sword Sect. The one sitting inside is probably a young prodigy of Emperor Sword Sect." Although Emperor Sword Sect is not an immortal sect, it is still one of the strongest sects below the level of immortal sects, with several elders in the Tribulation Transcendence realm. If a cultivator successfully crosses the Ascension Tribulation, Tianming might gain another immortal sect. The young generation of Emperor Sword Sect is extremely powerful and can even compete with Divine Sword Sect. It's said that a sword child has nearly 80% sword intent and slew a nascent soul 7th layer cultivator just after entering nascent soul. The young generation these days is truly getting more and more formidable. The chariot pulled by the golden profound birds rapidly streaked across the sky, leaving a trail of golden spirit light as it rushed toward Divine Sword Sect. Luya glanced at the old man driving the chariot. His power was extremely terrifying, perhaps even not inferior to Elder Ming. Cave Void Realm. Luya was a bit shaken, surprised to see a cave void great cultivator acting as a charioteer, truly worthy of being one of the strongest sects below an immortal sect. Luya could not help but sigh inwardly. Tianming was too vast, and White Cloud Sect felt insignificantly tiny within it. Liu Ningxuang looked at the chariot pulled by the profound birds and spoke softly. The strength of Feng Bumming from Emperor Sword Sect is extremely formidable. His sword intent reaches the sky. Even I must be careful when dealing with him. Junior brother, you should take note of him. Luya was somewhat surprised. Even senior sister finds him challenging. He seems to be quite a character. He pondered. I sensed several strong sword intents in that chariot. They must all be extraordinary sword Tao geniuses. The strongest among them has a sword intent nearing 80%, barely less than senior sister Ruyu. That person is probably Feng Bumming. Luya nodded slightly, indicating he understood. The trio continued to get closer to Divine Sword Sect, and just in this short distance, they already encountered several sword Tao geniuses well known throughout the Eastern Domain. It was just a moment ago. Throughout these days, who knows how many geniuses would arrive here. It's imaginable how important the Sword Tao Conference was in the hearts of these sword cultivators. Even the Sword Tao geniuses did not want to miss such a grand event. Soon the trio reached the area of Divine Sword Sect. The dense spiritual energy surged, spirit rain falling from the sky, nourishing the strange flowers and exotic plants on the ground. Luya took a breath and felt the spiritual energy rush at him. He could not help but marvel. True to an immortal sect, such a concentration of spiritual energy was far superior to that of White Cloud Sect. If he were to cultivate here, his cultivation speed would undoubtedly far surpass that in other areas. Chapter 198, 112 Sword Tao Platform 2. It's no wonder that the disciples of the immortal sect are all so powerful. Upon entering the Divine Sword Sect's area, all sword cultivators descended to the ground and followed the stone steps, quickly reaching an enormous plaza. On the plaza were some young cultivators dressed in white, each carrying a long sword on their back, there to welcome the guests. These cultivators were young, both men and women, all standing straight as swords, with proud yet not arrogant expressions, exhibiting extremely high cultivation. The visiting sword cultivators were led by them through the mountain gate. These sword cultivators were not entering the floating immortal mountain. On the ground, there were also buildings belonging to the Divine Sword Sect and not a small city. The sword cultivators would stay in the city, waiting for the Sword Tao Conference to begin. Of course, there were exceptions, as Luya saw the carriage of the Emperor Sword Sect being welcomed by a Divine Sword Sect cultivator, whose presence was as profound as the ocean into a floating immortal mountain. At that moment, Luya saw Bai Xiaoming take out a Sword Tao order and hand it to a young cultivator. The Divine Sword Sect cultivator chuckled. Welcome fellow Taoist Bai to the Sword Tao Conference. All sword cultivators who have received the Sword Tao order will be arranged to stay at Sword Sound Peak. Of course, if you have friends within our Divine Sword sect, you're also welcome to visit them. Bai Xiaoming's expression was indifferent as he said, I'll go to Sword Sound Peak. The Divine Sword sect cultivator smiled and nodded, ready to lead him to Sword Sound Peak. Just then, everyone saw a beam of jade light flying out from one of the floating Immortal mountains and heading towards the plaza. Seeing the jade light, the cultivators of the Divine Sword sect were all surprised. Is that Senior Sister Ruyu? Why has Senior Sister Ruyu come down? Soon after, everyone saw the jade light land before Lu Yi and the other two. The jade light transformed into Jian Ruyu, an air of heroic beauty on her smiling face as she said, Ningxuang, junior brother, you finally arrived. Come, let me take you to where I stay. Naturally, Lu Yi and the others had no objections. No one from the Divine Sword sect's cultivators stopped them, and the group ascended into the air, flying towards the floating Immortal mountain from where Jian Ruyu had come. After the group had departed, the crowd began to buzz with chatter. That Immortal, she seems to be Liu Ningxuang from the Young Talents ranking. I heard she and Senior Sister Ruyu are close friends. It's indeed her, but who is that young man? I don't know, I've never heard of him. Senior Sister Ruyu called that young man her junior brother. Could it be that he's also a disciple of our Divine Sword sect? Impossible. If the Divine Sword sect had a disciple close to Senior Sister Ruyu, how could we not know about it? I think I know who that man is. Who is he? Senior Sister Ruyu's hometown is in Qingzhou, and Immortal Liu Ningxuang seems to be from Qingzhou too. Some time ago, when I was traveling abroad, I heard that Qingzhou Beiyan sect had produced an immortal seed, a talent as terrifying as ancient demons, extremely formidable. Even at the Qi Cultivation realm, he had grasped sword intent. It must be him. What? Grasped sword intent in the Qi Cultivation realm? The cultivators, mostly sword cultivators themselves, upon hearing this, all had their eyes wide and faces filled with disbelief. As sword cultivators, who doesn't know how profound and mystical sword intent is? It's a form of conception. To grasp conception at the Golden Core realm is to be a rare genius, but having it in the Qi Cultivation realm, they'd never even heard of such a thing. If it's true, then to what extent has this fellow's sword intent reached now? One person questioned. The others also looked at each other, unable to speculate. This kind of talent had already surpassed their imagination. Even Bai Xiaoming, who hadn't yet left, was silent at this moment. He turned his head and asked the divinity transformation cultivator beside him, Elder Bai, is it really possible for someone to grasp sword intent at the Qi Cultivation realm? The divinity transformation cultivator fell silent and shook his head slightly. I find it hard to believe. Bai Xiaoming, watching Lu Yi depart in a trail of light, had a sharpness in his eyes and an icy expression. The truth will be revealed during the Sword Tao conference. Lu Yi, following Jian Ruyu, flew towards the Immortal mountain, and as they neared it, he felt the spiritual energy grow denser. Unable to resist expressing his admiration, the spiritual energy here is indeed dense. Jian Ruyu laughed. Indeed, it is said that the founder imprisoned several top-grade spiritual veins here with great power, nourishing this place and making the spiritual energy what it is now. Elder Ming's expression was filled with longing as he sighed. To forcibly create a cave heaven-blessed land, the might of immortals is truly immeasurable. Liu was also amazed. Indeed, this floating immortal mountain with its dense spiritual energy demonstrates why they say when one attains the Tao, even their pets ascend to heaven. Jian Ruyu chuckled. Junior brother, if you think this place is good, stay here for a while. The rich spiritual energy should help with your cultivation. Lu Yi smiled faintly, not overly concerned. After all, he was cultivating with spirit marrow. Although the spiritual energy here was rich, it pales in comparison to spirit marrow, so it didn't actually affect him much. It didn't take long for Jian Ruyu to lead the three to the floating Immortal mountain. Jian Ruyu seemed to be highly respected here, as passing cultivators would greet her. Lu Yi glanced around. The cultivators they passed were Golden Core, Nascent Soul, and Divinity Transformation, all containing sword intent, and all were disciples. Lu Yi found this quite bizarre. In Qingzhou, a divinity transformation cultivator was already a supreme elder of a great sect. However, even the divinity transformation cultivators that Lu Yi had met before didn't have sword intent as powerful as Jian Ruyu's. To grasp 80% of sword intent at the nascent soul realm was indeed monstrous. Even in such a Sword Tao sacred land, she was a remarkably extraordinary existence. Chapter 199, 112 Sword Tao Platform 3. It's no wonder others respected her. Giant Ruyu led the three of them to Grand Palace with the characters, Ruyu Hall, inscribed above it. This is where I live, Elder Ming, Ningxuang, junior brother. You will stay here and wait for the Sword Tao conference to begin. Lu Yi and the two others nodded and moved into Ruyu Hall. In the following days, Lu Yi practiced his cultivation daily, sometimes using a drop of true dragon blood to comprehend the innate Tao patterns on the true dragon scales, continuously enhancing his heavenly thunder true dragon technique. In the previous battle, Lu Yi found that having a strong physical body was truly exceptional. Invulnerable to all laws, the body could rival an artifact, and a single punch could turn anyone below divinity transformation into a mist of blood. This was a feeling other cultivators of Taoist skills could hardly imagine, unstoppable and invincible. Lu Yi very much enjoyed this feeling. Of course, Lu Yi wouldn't give up on other Taoist skills and continued to cultivate them peacefully. He occasionally exchanged sword techniques with Jian Ruyu. Unfortunately, after achieving perfection in sword intent, the progress had been extremely slow. If it continued at this rate, reaching the domain realm could take several years, or even more than a decade. Fortunately, the upcoming Sword Tao conference would provide an opportunity to save a lot of time. Time passed, and soon, the day of the Sword Tao conference arrived. That day, a massive Sword Tao platform rose into the air, floating among several floating immortal mountains. The platform was covered in numerous swords, with sharp and overwhelming sword intent flowing within them. The sword intent soared into the sky, spreading throughout the entire divine sword sect. A multitude of sword cultivators looked up at the Sword Tao platform, their eyes filled with fervent desire. Jian Ruyu, together with Lu Yi, Liu Ningxuang, and Elder Ming, flew towards the Sword Tao platform. Apart from them, the sky was crowded with cultivators flying towards the Sword Tao platform. These cultivators included sword talents who had traveled thousands of miles from other provinces, as well as disciples from within the divine sword sect. All sword practitioners had comprehended sword intent, and only those who contained sword intent were qualified to participate in the Sword Tao conference. But having the qualification was just the beginning. If they weren't strong enough, they still couldn't step onto the Sword Tao platform. As the group hovered outside the Sword Tao platform, Lu Yi saw several figures floating in the air above the platform. There were middle-aged individuals and the elderly, both men and women. The auras of these powerhouses were hidden, making them seem like ordinary mortals. Lu Yi's spiritual sense was extremely sharp. The moment he saw them, he felt a chill run through his body as if he had encountered terrifying creatures. These elders were incredibly powerful, far surpassing Elder Ming. Noticing Lu Yi's focus on these cultivators, Jian Ruyu said, "They are the current sect leader of the Divine Sword sect and several powerful elders, all great Mahayana cultivators." Upon hearing this, Lu Yi's pupils constricted slightly. Great Mahayana cultivators, no wonder they feel terrifying. After Mahayana, the next stage was the Tribulation Transcendence realm. Reaching the Tribulation Transcendence realm usually meant dealing with old demons, who generally did not venture out, focusing instead on preparing for their ascension tribulation. They could be considered the most powerful group of cultivators out in the open. Reaching the Mahayana realm had a prerequisite: mastering the domain, embodying the heaven and earth within a square inch, achieving heavenly unity, a terrifyingly powerful state with unimaginable combat ability. Mahayana cultivators, not to say capturing stars or overturning thousands of miles with a wave of their hand, could definitely achieve such feats. The leading middle-aged man was the current sect leader of the Divine Sword sect, named Xing Jiazheng. He stood aloft as if merging with the universe, with a natural Taoist charm. Merely standing there, he was hard to perceive clearly. His voice rang out like the clanging of metal. "The Sword Tao platform is now open. All sword cultivators enter the Sword Tao platform." At his words, numerous cultivators, their eyes ablaze, flew towards the Sword Tao platform. The first one to reach was a young man whose cultivation base had already reached the nascent soul realm. His body was surrounded by a strong current of sword intent, forming a translucent sword gang around him as he stepped onto the Sword Tao platform. However, as soon as he stepped in, the surrounding swords started humming. Invisible sword intent transformed into a terrifying storm that surged towards him. Boom! The young man was struck and sent flying before he could even react, coughing up fresh blood. He looked terrified and cried out incredulously, "How is this possible? How can this sword intent be so strong? My sword intent has already reached 20% and a half, and still, I can't step onto the sword Tao platform. I don't believe it." Hearing this, many cultivators stopped in their tracks, looking at the young man with surprise. Is this Xianxia from the Taixuan sword sect? He's famously known as a sword talent in Lin province. Can it be that he doesn't even qualify to step onto the sword Tao platform? 20% and a half sword intent, and still not qualified. How strong does one's sword intent need to be to enter the sword Tao platform? The crowd murmured among themselves, and some cultivators, disbelieving, stepped onto the sword Tao platform again. This cultivator's sword intent was even weaker than Sheng Yiji's, and he was immediately blasted off. This made many cultivators hesitant. At that moment, a cold voice rang out, "HMPH, a bunch of trash, do you even think you can step onto the sword Tao platform?" A man in yellow robes, with a long sword on his back and hands behind, drifted towards the sword Tao platform. His body emanated bright yellow sword light, intensely brilliant like the imperial might, stepping onto the sword Tao platform in one go. The humming swords tried to release their sword intent, but were swept over by his radiant sword light. They all stopped as if in fear. Many cultivators gasped, "Emperor sword intent from the Emperor sword sect. This man is Feng Bumming. Truly deserving as one of the top 5 talents on the Young Talents ranking. His sword intent is just like the Emperor's might, sacred and inviolable. Even the sword intent of the sword Tao platform is suppressed by him. He truly is unimaginably powerful." Following Feng Bumming, several other yellow-robed sword cultivators stepped forward laughing, "We follow our senior brother." They too released Emperor sword intent, though slightly weaker than Feng Bumming. The moment they stepped onto the sword Tao platform, their sword intent soared to the sky, resisting the sword intent from the platform, and they walked over to Feng Bumming's side. From just the Emperor sword sect alone, 6 young sword cultivators had managed to step onto the sword Tao platform. Seeing the Emperor sword sect cultivators stepping onto the sword Tao platform, the confident sword cultivators also used their sword intent as a shield and stepped onto the platform. Some sword cultivators resisted the sword intent released by the platform, while others were blasted off. Among them, there were exceptional talents like Feng Bumming, whose powerful sword intent suppressed the platform so much that it couldn't even release sword qi. There were also older generation sword cultivators who stepped onto it, as if strolling leisurely. Lu Yi saw by Xianxia as he stepped onto the sword Tao platform. Instantly, his sword intent sword, sharp and cold, containing a terrifying murderous aura. This was the sword of slaughter. Terrible sword intent surged towards him from the sword artifacts around the platform, all of which he neutralized. Bai Xianxia was also struggling, moving slowly and resisting the sword intent as he slowly walked onto the sword Tao platform. In the sky full of sword cultivators, the true number that managed to enter the sword Tao platform was merely a handful of hundreds. Jian Ruyu turned to look at Lu Yi and Elder Ming, lightly laughing. "Junior brother Elder Ming, let's go in as well." Liu Ningxuang, not being a sword cultivator, could only watch from the outside, unable to step onto the sword Tao platform. Elder Ming smiled slightly, feeling somewhat nostalgic. "The last time I attended the sword Tao conference, I was fortunate enough to step onto the sword Tao platform, and here I am again, old man." Luya smiled faintly, nodding, "Let's go." The 3 of them also flew towards the sword Tao platform. Chapter 200, 113. Standing shoulder to shoulder with a cave void cultivator. Jian Ruyu was the foremost prodigy among the younger generation within the divine sword sect, naturally attracting countless followers. The moment she made a move, cultivators took notice and a buzz of discussion emerged. "It's Jian Ruyu. Jian Ruyu is going in." Rumor has it that Jian Ruyu's sword intent is close to great success, not too far from perfection, and she's only at the nascent soul realm. Such a level of sword intent cultivation, even surpassing most of our senior cave void sword cultivators. Her talent is unimaginable. Who are those 2 people by Jian Ruyu's side? The elder exudes a profound and vast aura. He must be a very powerful sword cultivator, his cultivation having reached the cave void realm, right? And the other young man seems to be just at the golden core. Does he have the confidence to enter the sword Tao platform? to be able to enter the Sword Tao platform at the Golden Core realm. If he really succeeds, he might well be a Sword Tao prodigy not inferior to Bai Xiaming. Don't you know? That young man is a famous prodigy in Qingzhou, rumored to have comprehended sword intent in the Qi cultivation realm, even provoking a Qi cultivation thunder tribulation. His talent is monstrous. SSS, the crowd gasped and looked at Lu Yi with changed expressions. Really? That's strong. If he really comprehended sword intent in the Qi cultivation realm, then how strong must his sword intent be now that he's at Golden Core? The crowd discussed animatedly, and their attention began to shift towards Lu Yi. In the sky, Xing Jiazheng and the group of great Mahayana elders were also paying attention to Jian Ruyu. A round-faced elder said with a slight smile, "Ruyu's sword intent has grown stronger since the last time." Exactly, with her talent, reaching the Mahayana realm should pose no problem, and the Tribulation Transcendence realm might also be achievable. She truly is a rare gem. That youngster with Ruyu seems quite out of the ordinary, one of the elders stated with some uncertainty. Upon hearing this, others also cast their gazes over, focusing intently on Lu Yi. Soon, they too showed a hint of surprise. We can't sense any sword intent. What's the matter with this young fellow?" Even Xing Jiazheng could not help but take a second look, furrowing his brows. His inner sword intent has returned to simplicity. This young man, he is exceptional. Where is he from? I don't know. It seems they are acquainted given their relationship. Could they be old friends? While they were speaking, the trio of Lu Yi had already arrived at the edge of the sword intent platform. As the three stepped inside, Elder Ming's sword intent soared into the sky, stirring the winds and clouds so forcefully that even the spiritual energy auroras shook. The cultivators within the Sword Tao platform turned their heads in surprise at Elder Ming's sword intent. Elder Ming's potent sword intent confronted the sword intent within the Sword Tao platform, and before it could even approach within 3 feet of him, it slowly dispersed. He stepped forward and entered. On the other side, Jian Ruyu also stepped forward into the platform, with jade-colored sword intent conjuring a jade dragon around her for protection. As the jade dragon roared, the initially trembling swords calmed down, and no sword intent was emitted. Yet when Lu Yi entered, the reaction was the least pronounced. He walked on like an ordinary person, one step at a time, and the swords on the Sword Tao platform seemed not to react, not even stirring sword intent. He entered the Sword Tao platform with such calm. Many cultivators witnessed this scene, with astonishment on their faces. What's going on? Why didn't the sword intent react when that young man stepped onto the Sword Tao platform? Could there be something wrong with the Sword Tao platform? Some cautious cultivators moved closer, intending to test whether the Sword Tao platform was indeed malfunctioning. However, the moment they stepped onto the Sword Tao platform, they were repulsed by a terrifying sword intent and coughed up blood repeatedly. This made the previously eager cultivators freeze in place. They looked at Lu Yi, their expressions fraught with awe and confusion. The Sword Tao platform isn't broken, so how did he do it? Did he really comprehend sword intent in the Qi cultivation realm? I'm starting to believe it. He's not simple at all. In the sky, Xing Jiazheng and the others remained silent, deeply observing Lu Yi as he slowly stepped onto the Sword Tao platform, their faces etched with shock. This, sword intent like an ocean, returning true to simplicity, the Sword Tao platform treats him like a long sword, hardly able to initiate any sword intent. This lad is indeed extraordinary. His sword intent cultivation is extremely high. I fear it surpasses 90%. But how is that possible? He's only at the Golden Core realm, yet his sword intent surpasses 90%. Could he be a naturally born sword immortal? The eyes of Xing Jiazheng and his companions flickered brightly. If there were no accidents, such a cultivator would certainly prove the way with the sword and ascend to immortality. After a moment of silence, Xing Jiazheng spoke up. "Inform the old master, there's a naturally born sword immortal seedling here, and he will be very pleased." One of the elders spoke up with sparkling eyes. "I wonder if he would be willing to join our divine sword sect. A sword immortal seedling like him should cultivate in our divine sword sect, otherwise it would be a waste of talent. I am willing to take him as my direct disciple." "Pa, I was thinking of taking him as my direct disciple too." The group of elders began to argue, unexpectedly squabbling over the matter. After stepping onto the Sword Tao platform, Lu Yi realized the uniqueness of it. Standing on the Sword Tao platform, Lu Yi could clearly sense the ever-changing profound mysteries of the Sword Tao, seeming to emanate from the swords and the platform itself. It was as though the platform itself was narrating the philosophy of the Sword Tao. Especially as streaks of sword intent continuously swirled above the Sword Tao platform, cultivators had to use their own sword intent to counteract in order to stand firm. It was a form of tempering. A sword unsharpened would never be keen.